Yo, YouTube, what is good? It's Aeghis. In this video, we have the long-awaited Arcane Mage guide. Arcane has been super fun this patch. I highly recommend everyone giving it a try again. If maybe you've tried Arcane and you decided you weren't really sold on it, you don't really like it, after watching this video, I highly encourage you guys to give it another shot. Arcane is my current favorite spec out of all the specs. I don't really play that much shuffle on it anymore, but I was a little bit higher in shuffle earlier just to give myself a little bit of credentials. If you guys don't know who I am, my name is Aeghis. I've played World of Warcraft ever since vanilla. Played Mage and PvP ever since WoD. Started getting my first rank 1s in Shadowlands, and then now we're just I've gotten like rank 1 every single season since. Right now we're number 15 on the 3s ladder, 35 in the 2s ladder, 8 in solo shuffle, and we've gotten all of these with Arcane. So yeah, if you guys want to, I guess, replicate that same success, there's a cat. If you guys want to replicate that same success, definitely just watch the guide, and I hope that you guys can take away a lot of information from this and up your Arcane gameplay. So anyways, let's get right into it. For the first thing I want to do is I want to go over what is going to actually be in the guide so that I can further direct you guys a little bit. We're going to just do our little intro here. So basically, you guys can skip around in the video. This is going to be quite a lengthy video, so you guys can skip around. Maybe you already know how to get the best gear, or maybe you already know like all of this information about 2-set, 4-set. Maybe you already know all the PvP talents because you're in my Discord, and maybe you only really care about the gameplay examples. Maybe you only care about the macros and the add-ons. Like I said, there will be timestamps for everywhere, so you guys can skip around depending on your starting level, your skill level, whatever. However, I would recommend watching the video from start to finish, as it's going to be that's going to be the most efficient way if you guys really do want to learn the specs start to finish, A through Z. That would be my personal recommendation, is to watch the whole thing. But like I said, you guys can skip around depending on your starting levels. So the general breakdown of Arcane Mage is basically that it's a highly mobile spec. So there's a lot of things in your toolkit that are going to increase your movement speed, and you have a lot of mobility and ways to get cast off. A very big pro of the spec is that you're very highly mobile, which makes it very, very fun to play. You also have large burst windows. Your Arcane Surge with your Magi into your clear casting missiles, palm double Arcane Blast, stuff like that. That's going to be a huge amount of damage in a single, like a couple seconds, and you're going to be able to do that like every 45 seconds or so. You have really big burst windows. Your consistent damage is a little bit weaker, so you have okay consistent damage, which is going to come through getting clear casting missiles, which we'll talk about all these terms later. So I put this in here because, in my opinion, Arcane is a very global intensive spec. So what this basically means, if you guys aren't familiar with that, is that in the game there's something called the global cooldown. Every button you press is going to be this little cooldown that you see, and you can't press any other buttons. So with Arcane, you have a lot of basically you're gonna go haste verse, just to spoil a little bit of the stat pile, and you're gonna have this buff as well. It's gonna increase your haste, so you're gonna be sitting around 50% haste baseline. And the reason why I wrote that it was global intensive is because since you have 50% haste, and haste affects the globals, you have a lot of buttons that you can press, because this cooldown actually recovers faster than other classes and other casters because of how much haste you're able to stack on this class. So it can be a little bit harder in that sense, because in order to play it at a very efficient level in the best way possible, you want to always be pressing buttons. You want to have a high, what they call like APM, actions per minute. You want to be making sure that you are always pressing a button. All right, and then I have this last thing here of the general breakdown of Arcane. It's not a very inherently tanky spec. You are a cloth wearer who actually doesn't have that much armor, so you are very susceptible to physical damage. So you're not inherently tanky. The way your tankiness is going to actually come is going to be through the use of your finesse abilities that you have, such as like Shimmer, Alter Time, Displace, Temporal Shield, how well you're slowing the target, how well you're using your mobility, making sure that you are spell stealing important buffs to self-sustain yourself, and then, you know, through the use of just trading your cooldowns efficiently, like your wall, your block, your shadow meld, stuff like that. That sounds like a spec that is interesting to you guys. A very highly mobile, high burst, you know, isn't inherently tanky, requires you to have to like kind of see the damage coming preemptively, and then you can position yourself very far away because you're very highly mobile spec. You know, get in, get stuff done, get out quickly, and just, you know, always having buttons to press, very global intensive. If that sounds like something that you guys would enjoy, then Arcane Mage might be for you. Yeah, let's get right into the next part now. So we're gonna just go over the basics here, and yeah, let's get right into that. Let's get right into the basics. This is gonna include the stat priority, the gearing, the enchants, and the gems. So this stuff is all really basic stuff. It's also very important, however, even though it is basic, because gearing in World of Warcraft PvP obviously does matter a lot. I've played a lot of different mages. I've done like blue gear challenges, and gearing does matter a lot. So you want to make sure you have your gearing set up in the best way possible. Luckily for you guys, I do have what I would consider pretty close to the best gear, and I'll explain why in a little bit. Basically, first thing that you will want to know is that the stat priority is going to be versatility first and then haste. The reason why haste is so good and why you're not going into like mastery or critical strike is we've already talked about this a little bit in the previous section, but is that haste is going to affect your global cooldowns and it's going to reduce your casting speed. So the global cooldown is going to be this little thing that goes on cooldown every time you press an ability. That is going to be reduced, and that is huge for Arcane because a lot of what you're going to be doing throughout the game is spamming barrages. You're going to be spamming spell steals. You have a lot of buttons that you kind of need to spam press, and having the ability to be able to do it very quickly like this is going to be huge for you. Plus, it could be said also that mastery doesn't actually scale as well as it feels like it would on Arcane. I have tried like a full mastery build and it did not really feel that great. And then critical strike is obviously always feels good when you get those big arcane blast crits and those big barrage crits, but it's not worth the sacrifice for a chance at getting an RNG crit. Haste verse is just going to be a very good overall foundational build that you'll run in like every single instance as an Arcane Mage. And by the way, I also want to note I do run the same gear sets for all three specs right now. If you just get this gear set, it will also allow you to play the other spec. So now we're going to go over why the 2 set is better to run than the 4 set. So you can see here for the 2 set pieces that we're going to run the legs and we're going to run the shoulders. The legs are going to have haste mastery on them, which is going to be obviously the second best piece that we have available to us. The rest of the pieces are like crit haste or something like that, something not good. So the shoulders have haste verse on them, which is awesome. And then the legs have haste mastery. And since these have a little bit of a verse deficit, they obviously don't have verse on them. We can just get our verse elsewhere, so that's why it's fun. The 2 set itself reads that Arcane Surge increases the spell damage by an additional 10% and the duration is increased by 3%. Or by 3 seconds. So even if you don't know what this does, Arcane Surge is your giant damaging cooldown. Obviously, it's going to increase the damage more and increase the duration. So that's very good. The 4 set, a lot of people have asked me why you don't run the 4 set on Arcane Mage. Real quick, I'll just go over it. So for every X amount of mana that you spend on and during Arcane Surge, your spell damage is increased by 1 for 18 seconds after Arcane Surge fades, stacking up to 25 times. Also increases your mana regeneration for this time by 50%. So basically, when you Arcane Surge, however much mana you spend, for every 24,000 mana you spend, you get 1% damage. So if you have a really good surge, and you use a bunch of buttons, and you get all of your globals and all your casts off, you can exit the Arcane Surge with, I think it's like 25% more damage or something. However, this kind of counteracts what we wrote up here, where it has only okay consistent damage. So when you buff that like already mediocre damage by 25%, and that is kind of like not also guaranteed 25%, it's not gonna prove to be too much value. For one, because a lot of the times during that downtime where you're not in your large burst window, those are gonna be the moments where you're spell stealing, barraging, kiting, playing defensive. You know, the games go in like there's like a momentum wave. It's like you go, you use your Arcane Surge, your damage spikes really high, and then you force a bunch of cooldowns, your Arcane Surge fades, and now your momentum is like lower. So having 25% increased damage when you're not really able to do a go or able to force more, it doesn't really prove to be that valuable. So we're not running the 4 set. We're going to opt to just take better stats, which would be the trade-off. So yeah, we just get to wear better gear. Because if you do run the 4 set, you have to wear like a crit mastery piece. Then you have to wear like a crit haste piece here as well. And that's just not going to be too good for us. All right, now I want to go over the rest of the gear now that we've already kind of already gotten over the stat priority and the 2 set and the 4 set. So the rest of the gear that you're going to be wearing here is you're just going to go for the Obsidian Gladiator. Like this is just going to be the normal Conquest helmet. And the reasoning for a lot of these pieces, I'll just go ahead and explain this preemptively, is that you can see here I have this add-on where it says like true rating versus lost rating. If you guys didn't know, there is something called like a soft cap on your versatility, and that soft cap is going to be 30%. So for every versatility that you have over 30%, it's going to DR with itself, aka like diminishing return by 10%. So you're actually losing value by going over 30% versatility. So with this current gear set I have now, I'm actually only 6 verse under 30%. To have exactly 30% versatility, you need 6,150. And I'm at 6,144. I don't really die too much, I guess, on my Arcane Mage, so I'm fine with being directly on the verse cap rather than being like a little bit above it, because that allows me to have more into my haste, which is going to make my character feel a lot better. And it also allows you to stack a little bit more mastery as well. So that's going to be the reasoning why I have the gear that's set up in the way that I do here. It's because it's going to min-max your exact... Maybe there's a gear set out there that lets you have like 6150, but for me, like I said, I'm just running... This is what I've found and it works for me, so this is what I'm going to go with here. The gear set that I'm running, and it's working very well for me. So we have the Obsidian Gladiator's helmet here, and basically with all of our gems, we're just going to have the 70 haste, 30 verse ones. You can see here, I even have a mastery one in there too, because if I were to have that 33 verse one in there, it would put me slightly over the cap. So yeah, I'm running the Torque of Pastime. This is going to be a crafted piece that you can get from the crafted auction house. So I'm running actually the Haste Mastery cape here. And a lot of people have asked me why on stream. And it's because of what I said earlier. I don't want to go over my 30 versatility cap. I'd rather have this be haste mastery than haste verse, which is why I'm rocking this one. So this is also going to be a crafted piece. Then we have the crafted chest. So that's going to further make sure that the haste and the verse are more equal, because the other one, like the normal conquest one, has a higher versatility amount than haste. I think it's like, I don't know exactly, but it's like 500 verse and like 350 haste or something, you know? So the stats are a little bit less equal. And then we're running the Conquest Bracers here. Just to go over the enchants too, we got the Homebound Speed on the back. That's going to increase your speed a little bit. The Waking Stats is going to be the enchant for the chest. It's just going to give you more intellect. And then we have 200 speed on the Bracers with the 70 haste, 30 verse enchant. Like I said, just the Conquest one. Just the normal gloves. Can't put anything on the gloves. So nothing there. Now we have the Infurious Bindings of the Gesticulation. So this is going to be your first embellishment that you have. This piece is going to be Verse Mastery. You can put the Shadowed Belt clasp on there, which you can also get that from the auction house. That's just going to give you some more stamina. I opt to put my primary stat gem into this. So this is going to be another item that you get off the crafted auction house. You're going to have to like craft it yourself or get someone else to craft it for you. Yeah, you want to get the 75 primary stat with the 66 haste on there. If you guys don't know, by the way, in order to get sockets on all these pieces, you have to get the Great Vault rewards, get the tokens from down like the non-gear reward, and then you can buy sockets with those. This belt is really good because anytime you apply a loss of control effect to an enemy, you interrupt an enemy, or you purge the enemy with like a spell steal, which is going to be that last bar there, dispelling any target, going to increase your primary stat by 510. So this occurs a lot. This is every 30 seconds you're able to get a nice primary stat increase. This is a very good item to increase your damage. We're just rocking the Haste Mastery gear set legs with the 177 intellect and 131 stamina enchant on there. The boots are going to be the crafted boots that we made precog on. So precog is that effect right there. If an interrupt is used on you while you are not casting, you become immune to crowd control, interrupts, and cast pushbacks for 4 seconds. We're going to put Watcher's Loam enchant on there. And then for the ring, we're going to run 1 Conquest Ring and 1 Signet of Titanic Insight. This is also crafted. And then you can see we have the Verse enchants on there, and then the Haste Verse Haste Heavy gem. And then for the trinkets, you want to just run the Medallion and you want to run Insignia. It could be said that if you're playing like a human, for example, a lot of people would run something else, like they would run Badge and Insignia or BM and Insignia. Personally, I don't think this is good. I think even if you're a human, you should use Medallion, and then you can rotate Medallion and Every Man for Himself. And it basically just makes it to where your cooldown on your trinket will only be 1 minute and 30 if you can rotate those properly. But yeah, I would recommend just Medallion and Insignia every single game pretty much. And then for your staff, you want to run just the Conquest staff with Sophic Devotion on it. And by the way, you want all these pieces to be haste verse, like the Conquest ones that you buy. I'll just go over this one more time for you guys, but if you do want to just copy this exact gear set, obviously that's what this video is here for. You can also just go to my Armory page. However, I don't recommend that, as sometimes armories won't be completely accurate because people will be testing different gear sets. If you guys do want the add-on that shows you the lost rating on your stats, it's called True Stat Values. So it's right here. True Stat Values shows secondary stat diminishing return tips, or diminishing returns on tooltips. So yeah, that's all we really have on the gearing, the enchants, the gems, and the stat priority. So let's get now on to basically how to play Arcane Mage now that we have our character set up. Okay, so right now we are going to start our explanation of what arcane charges are basically, and that's going to be very crucial to understanding everything else that comes with arcane. You can see here I have my 4 arcane charges right here, and we'll just go ahead and read our mastery real quick because that's basically what arcane charges are. So your mastery is something called Savant, increases your mana regen rate and maximum mana by a certain amount. You don't really care about that part. Here's the very important part. So arcane charges are going to increase the damage of your blast by an additional 11%, and your barrage by an additional 5.7%. And that's going to scale based off of how much mastery you have. And that's going to also increase all the other arcane damage you do by 13.6% in my gear. But yeah, so that is, if you guys, read that, and what you understand from that basically is that the more arcane charges that you have is going to increase how much arcane damage that you're doing with blast and barrage only. Basically, what that means is that when you have one arcane charge right here, this is going to do more damage than the previous one. So you can see here that hits for 31k. Now that I have 2 charges, this next one will hit for 46k, and then now 56k, and then now that I'm at 4, it will hit, well, that was a crit. Now that one will hit for 57. So, and then if I spend all of mine, so the way that you spend these arcane charges is, remember the other part. So your blast is going to do more every time that you have more arcane charges, and your barrage is going to do more as well. So now that when you throw your barrage here, that's going to hit for 61k. And if I come over here and I just do a 0 charge arcane blast or barrage, you can see it doesn't even do enough damage to really, it does like 25k non-crit. And then obviously the more charges you have, that's going to hit harder. In short, arcane blast is going to do more damage when you have full charges, and arcane barrage is going to do more damage when you have full charges. That's it though. Your missiles is going to do the same regardless. You can see 29, like 30k crits with full charges, and then even if I spent those, they're still going to be 29 to 30k. So your missiles damage is not affected by your charges. It's only your barrage and your blast. So that's something to keep in mind. So now that we know a little bit about our arcane charges, let's go a little bit more into what every single ability does by going over the talents. First of all, there's a couple abilities that aren't talents that we'll go over here first. So the first one is Barrage is not a talent here. So we're just going to go over a little bit of those. So Barrage is going to be your, I would say your main ability on Arcane. It's like a very, very good ability. Launches bolt of arcane energy at the target, causing a certain amount of damage. For each arcane charge, it deals 35% additional damage and hits an additional nearby target. So that is another portion of your arcane charges, that your barrage will actually cleave to multiple targets. You can see it hit all 3 targets right there. It's going to hit a bunch more targets for however many charges you have, and that is going to increase the damage of it as well from a further talent that we'll get to. But yeah, you can see there at the bottom it says consumes all charges. Now this ability doesn't have a cooldown, so it's something that's very good to spam, because it's going to apply something called Chrono Shift, which is going to be a slow that you can apply to the target, and it's non-dispellable. And it will also give you Chrono Shift, which increases your movement speed. So you throw a barrage, you get 50% movement speed, you slow them by 50% movement speed. And obviously if you're spending a 0 charge arcane barrage, it's you're not really spending anything, you're not losing out on anything. Part where a lot of confusion comes in and a lot of people ask me questions is, how do I keep up this buff and keep up this tempo buff while making sure I'm not spending all my arcane charges all the time, because now I'm not doing any damage when I do that. We'll get into that in the future or later down the road, but yeah, I just wanted to point that out. Arcane Blast is going to be one of your ways to do damage. So blast the target with arcane, blast the target with energy, dealing a certain amount of arcane damage. For each arcane charge, it increases the damage by a certain amount, and it increases the mana cost and reduces the cast speed. So one thing with Arcane Blast, I just want to reiterate right here, never be casting Arcane Blast if you're not at least at I would say 3. Like a 2 and below, you definitely do not want to cast Arcane Blast, because the cast time is too long and it doesn't do any damage. So you can see when you are casting 4 charge Arcane Blasts, they're hitting for a decent amount of damage. They also spend a lot of mana, and that's going to tie into how we get these procs here, these clear casting procs, which are going to make your arcane missiles cost no mana, and it's going to make them channel 20% faster. So these are going to be how you're doing a lot of damage. You can see those 3 clear casting missiles did 335k HP, which is a lot of damage. Now we have Arcane Orb. Arcane Orb is a, launch an Arcane Orb forward from your position, traveling up to 40 yards, does a certain amount of damage to everyone that it passes through. And it also grants you 1 charge every person it hits. So let me spend all my Arcane Charges. You can see if I line it up here to hit 3 different people, it's going to give me 3 charges. Actually 4, because you get 1 when you cast it, and then you also get 1 for every time it deals damage. Yeah, this is going to be your instant cast way to generate Arcane Charges, and you're going to have multiple ways to get orbs off. We'll talk about that later. So Arcane Surge is going to be your big cooldown, your 1.5 minute cooldown. I think we'll start going into talents after I read this, because we have started entering the talents section a little bit. But yeah, basically just to go over Arcane Surge real quick, it's going to expend all of your current mana, and it's going to do a big blast on the target. So you can see, just spends all your mana, hits the guy for 93k, and then you're going to get this buff that increases your spell damage by 45%. I think this is nerfed in PvP by a little bit, but it's still going to be a lot. And then it's going to also increase your mana regen. So you're just going to instantly going to regenerate all your mana. And that will help you maintain this buff that we'll talk about later as well. Anyways, this is your big, your Combust, your Icy Veins, your Arcane Surge. We've already went over missiles. We've already went over Orb. Now, Concentrated Power is going to be the talent that actually makes your clear casting missiles deadly. A normal missiles like this is not going to do a whole lot. It's only the clear casting missiles that you are really going to start to do a lot of damage with them. Yeah, it makes them channel 20% faster, so it's basically going to give you more ticks. So that missiles hit for 5. It did 5 ticks with a non-clear casting one. I'll show you here again. So yeah, just a normal missiles here. Details is bugging out a little bit now, but here you go. Hit 5 times. Now if we do it again with clear casting, it was at 5 and now it's at 8. So it hits 8 times instead of 5 times. So clear casting is going to give you a lot more damage with your missiles. Now we'll go down, further explain some more of these mechanics on Arcane Mage. So consuming Arcane Charges is going to increase your haste by 2%. Consuming Arcane Charges increases your haste by 2% for 12 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. So basically, whenever you throw a barrage, it's going to consume Arcane Charges. It's going to consume them all. So if you spam this, you can actually just keep up arcane tempo permanently, pretty much. And this is what's going to give you 50+% haste baseline, pretty much, because you can keep this buff up the entire game. That's going to be very, very good for decreasing your global cooldown speed, decreasing your casting speed, and decreasing your casting duration. You guys get what I'm saying. It's going to make your globals faster. It's going to make your cast faster. Very important buff. We're going to talk about this a little bit later. Improved missiles. This is just going to improve your missiles damage. You definitely want to pick that up. Raw damage increase is always good. Arcane Surge, we've already went over this. Crackling Energy. This is just going to be another raw damage increase to your blast. It also includes explosion, but you really care about the blast. So Nether Precision is going to say that whenever you consume a clear casting, it's going to increase the damage of your next 2 arcane blasts by 20%. So whenever you spend this clear casting, you're going to get this buff called Nether Precision, and that is going to increase the damage of your Arcane Blast. So you can see here, that one is going to hit harder, and then it's going to hit harder than if I didn't have that buff. So that's going to be when it's most important to blast, is whenever you have this proc here, this Nether Precision, and you're always going to get that after clear casting. It's a nice little damage increase, and that's kind of going to flow into your rotation when we talk about the rotation a little bit more. So these talents you don't really want. They don't really do anything. There's no point to really discuss them. Arcane Orb is going to have an additional charge with this talent here. This is going to be very crucial because Arcane Orb is how you're going to be generating your charges a lot, especially when you're getting trained and you can't just sit there and cast. This talent is very, very good because when you have full charges, remember, Arcane Barrage does AoE damage. So you see I have 4 charges here. When I throw it, and it hits a bunch of different targets, When it does that, it's going to get a 10% increase on damage per the target that it hit. This is why Arcane is like really good into a lot of classes that have pets and stuff, because every barrage you throw with charges, with Arcane Charges, is going to do 40% more damage basically. Yeah, it's very, very good talent. So you definitely want to pick that up. It's going to make your barrage hit really hard. Mana Adept you don't really want because you don't really have mana issues right now. Slipstream just lets you use clear casting missiles while moving. So this is very crucial because you can, instead of sitting here and channeling this clear casting that I have now, I could just move it while casting. And that is very, very good for obvious reasons. So as a caster, you're very highly mobile. You want to be running around. So this is going to say when clear casting, with the clear casting, your arcane missile is going to fire 3 additional missiles. So that's very good. That's going to make your clear casting even stronger. Palm is going to, well, I call this Palm. It's because of presence of mind. It's going to cause your next 2 arcane blasts to become instant cast. 45-second cooldown. This is one of your burst cooldowns. You only ever want to use this when you have the Nether Precision buff here. So, and then now that you have 2 of those, you can use your Palm Arcane Blast on those 2. So when you're getting trained, this is a really good way to get instant damage out. Arcane Cleave. For each arcane charge, Arcane Barrage hits 1 additional nearby enemy for 40% damage. So it's not really like you really care about the extra damage that it's going to do to other targets. It's the fact that it's going to hit additional nearby enemies per arcane charge. So that's what's giving the barrage this AoE mechanic here, and that is going to give you increased damage from resonance from this one. So that's how you're getting those huge arcane barrages. Nether Tempest. So Nether Tempest, I get a lot of questions on this one. It's a very small ability. I think we should go over this a little bit later when it comes down to rotation, but just know that right now we have to take it to go down into the more important talent. Improved Prismatic Barrier. This one is very good. So if you guys didn't know, all 3 mage specs have different barriers. So we have Prismatic Barrier as Arcane, Fire has Blazing, and then Frost has Ice Barrier. So Prismatic Barrier, if we just look at the effects from it, it's going to absorb 112,000 damage. The magic damage that we're going to be taking is going to be 25% reduced. And it's also going to reduce the duration of all harmful magic effects by 40%. So that's really good. And when you take this, that's how it's going to get those increased numbers. Without that talent, it would be a little bit worse. But with this talent, it's going to reduce the magic damage that we take by an additional 10. And it's going to reduce the duration of the harmful magic effects. So if you guys didn't know what this means, basically if you have dots or if you have this barrier up before you're about to get hit by a very hard spell, you'll take reduced magic damage. And if you were to get feared, coiled, sheeped while you have this up, it's going to be 40% shorter. That's huge, especially because you have mass barrier. So you can put this on your teammates as well to reduce CC and reduce damage. So very, very important talent. Impetus. So the reason why we're not taking this talent, even though it is 10% arcane damage on a 10% chance, is because you're not using Arcane Blast too much as you were previously. So we're not picking this up right now. Improved clear casting is going to let clear casting stack up to 3 times, which is very good considering clear castings are one of your main sources of damage. Chrono Shift is very important. Like we were talking about earlier, this is what gives you your highly mobile aspect of Arcane. This is how we're moving around. It's also going to keep that snare on the enemy to ensure that you can just keep your distance from them. Very crucial. Then we have Touch of the Magi. This is your second biggest offensive cooldown. So Surge is your huge cooldown, your big one shot. Not that the Surge will one shot them, but I'm saying Surge is going to give you that spell damage increase similar to a lot of other people's like Wings, for example, for Rat Pally, or Bestial Wrath for EM Hunter or something like that. You know, it's your big cooldown that people are watching out for. Magi is going to be your minor one that people are watching out for. It's your best way to get arcane charges. So you always want to press this when you're at 0. So one thing that I always do is if I'm here and I have arcane charges, before I press Magi, I'm going to just spend all of these first. It's going to refresh your tempo, and it's going to make sure that you don't overlap on arcane charges, because now when I press Magi, it's going to instantly restore them again. And now we'll talk a little bit about what Magi does. You can see here it will explode for a certain amount of damage when it expires. So however much damage you deal into the Magi is going to dictate how big the Magi is going to tick for. Applies Touch of the Magi to the current target, accumulating 20% of the damage you deal to it for 12 seconds and then exploding for that amount to the target and reduced damage to all nearby enemies. So the major part about this is the fact that you can generate 4 charges instantly. Like, the fact that it explodes is also good, but the fact that it's a very instant way to generate charges is what makes it better. So that's going to be a very, very good damaging cooldown for us. Supernova is like an interrupt of sort. A lot of people think Supernova is more like a damaging spell like it used to be, I think. Supernova is only good as a way to sort of knock an enemy up. However, you don't really take it too much right now. Evo talents, we're not going to talk about that. Enlightened just means that you're going to do 6% more arcane damage if you're above 70% mana. So this is a very good talent, obviously, because it's just basically 6% damage the whole game. So Echo is a talent where we enter like a little bit of gray area, because some people like Echo and some people don't. Like, there are a lot of high rated mages that don't like Echo, me being one of them. And then there are a couple mages who do prefer to play Echo. There is a time and a place for it. However, I do believe that like playing with Echo is not great when you're playing a comp. Like in Shuffle for example, you could play it. I personally don't even play it in Shuffle. But when you're playing a comp that relies on CCing people, which is a lot of the comps that you play with Arcane, then you definitely don't want to take this talent, because if you read it here, direct damage you deal to enemies affected by touch causes an explosion that deals with 1000 damage to all nearby enemies. So basically, when you Magi the target, every single spell that you have is going to burst the target for like 1k more. So it just adds like 1k damage per spell that you put into the Magi, which will add up a little bit. Usually it comes out to be 2 to 3 to 4% of your damage, maybe 5 if you're like cleaving pets and stuff. We can talk about that more later. Arcane Bombardment, this part is huge. Arcane Barrage deals an additional 100% damage against targets below 35%. So this is like a really, really key part of Arcane, is the fact that you have an execute. When there's a target who's under 35% HP, you want to make sure that you're throwing like a 4-stack Arcane Barrage on them, a 4-charge Arcane Blast, or sorry, a 4-charge Arcane Barrage on them, because it's going to get that increased damage. And you can further increase the damage with this with Harmony, which we'll get into now. Every time you consume a missiles, it's going to increase the damage of your next barrage by 5%, and it's going to stack up to 10 times in PvP. So every missiles, you'll see this buff I get here. And this is going to increase the damage of your barrage by a lot. So the most ideal situation you can be in with barrage, with the execute and harmony, is going to be if you have all of your harmony stacks, the target is below 35%, and you have 4 arcane charges. And then obviously if you have your damage modifiers like surge up, that's even better. And this is going to be the way that you do your max damage barrages. So that one was 117k with no cooldowns up. Let me pop Arcane Surge and see if we can hit one higher. Obviously this doesn't have the Arcane Bombardment execute factor into it, but yeah, 158k non-crit without the execute portion of it. So that's how you're going to get the huge barrages, is that you're going to stack your Arcane Charges, you're going to stack your Harmony from missiling, from consuming your clear castings, and then you're also going to try to do it in execute range would be the best. And if you can make sure that the person you're executing has pets around them or people around them, then you will also get resonance value from that barrage, further increasing the damage of it. So that one hit for 225k, and that wasn't even with the execute modifier either. That was just because it did increase damage because there were so many targets around him. So now we have a little bit like just some minor talents here. We have like Illuminated Thoughts. Clear casting has a 10% increased chance to proc. Obviously that's very good. Concentration. Arcane Blast has a chance to grant you concentration, which causes your next clear casting to not be consumed. So this talent is like good and bad, because whenever you do get that free one, that free clear casting, it's basically another clear casting that you just don't have to worry about. It basically lets you stack it up to 4 if I ever get one. Doesn't look like I actually am going to get one for the purpose of the video. But yeah, the reason why this talent is kind of bad sometimes is because when you do get that clear casting, it has a chance to be bugged. meaning that you won't be able to, the free one from concentration is sometimes not counted as a clear casting. So you won't be able to get the slipstream effect from it, which allows you to cast it while moving. So sometimes you'll get that free one and you won't be able to missiles while moving. This is like kind of a rare bug. Like you can see here, concentration, I have it. Your next clear casting will not be consumed. See, that one was not bugged. It let me use it and it was a clear casting missiles. So I personally opt to play with it because I have the thing that tracks if it's free or not. And then I notice if it is bugged and it's not letting me do it while moving, I'll just consume it real quick. It's whatever. But there is something you could do. You could also just put /cancel aura concentration into your missiles macro if you never want to have to deal with that. But since it only bugs out sometimes, I opt to play with it. Now we have Prodigious Savant. Arcane Charges further increases mastery effectiveness of Arcane Blast and Barrage by 40%. So this just means like your mastery is going to be more... Your mastery is going to have a greater effect, which you're only really taking this honestly to get to Orb Barrage, because Orb Barrage is very good. So for every Arcane Charge that you have, it has a 10% chance to launch an Arcane Orb in front of you. So I have one charge right here. This is going to be a 10% chance when I've consumed that charge that it's going to summon an orb. And the reason why this is so good is because if you get good RNG, I'm hoping for the video's sake I do get good RNG here. So I just did another orb to get full charges. When I barrage here, if I get lucky, it will actually spawn another orb. And the reason why this is good is because it will instantly refill your charges again. So I sent one here. Let's hope we get a proc here. No proc. I'll Magi to get full charges to try to get another proc. Unfortunately, not getting a proc. Let me get my charges again. All right, this one we're going to get a proc for sure. Yep, called it. So on that barrage, it actually sent a orb, and that fully reset my charges as long as it's hitting a lot. So if you get a lot of good RNG, you can just sit there and like you're just going to barrage. It's going to send an orb, which fully recharges your Arcane Charges, and you do it again, and it's going to just keep happening. And that's going to be so much damage, especially into stuff that has pets. So the reason there's something small with this talent that I want to, well, it's actually not even small. It's actually very important with this talent, guys. Whenever you're playing with this talent, whenever you barrage, you want to play around the idea that you're going to get a proc. So I don't want to face right here and throw my barrage, because when I throw my Arcane Barrage like this and I'm facing this way, this is where my orb will shoot if I do get the proc. So when you throw a barrage, you want to be facing your character in a way where if you do proc that talent, that it will hit as many targets as you want. So if I'm bursting this guy like this and I want to throw in a barrage, what I'm going to do is I'm going to like move over here and throw it to ensure that if I do get the proc, it will hit as many targets as possible so I can instantly get that refill. See, I get one there. However, if I was doing it like this and I was just bursting here and I throw a proc, and if I got an Arcane Orb Barrage proc, it would just throw it over there and it's not going to refill my charges, as you guys just saw. So whenever you're throwing barrage, your camera angle actually matters a lot. You want to make sure that whenever you throw it, you're facing a good direction, like a bowling lane of targets. You want to make sure you're facing as many targets as you can. Okay, so real quick, I just wanted to do a very quick overview of the left side of the tree. So this has changed since the last guide because we did get the rework. So just really quick, I want to go over the barrier. We've already talked about the barrier. It's just going to be a nice absorb, 112k. It's going to reduce the magic damage we take by 25%, reduce harmful duration by 40. So block is huge. Blocks are our biggest defensive cooldown in cases you're in a block of ice, but during the time you can't attack, move, or cast. So that's what this looks like, block. You're fully immune to everything. The only thing is like you get MD'd or shattered by a warrior out of that. Overflowing energy, you don't really have to play around this talent at all. Your spell critical strike damage is increased by 10%. And then whenever you fail to critically strike, it just helps you critically strike by giving you a stacking buff over time. So yeah, like I said, you don't really need to care about this at all. So we'll just go on to the next. Incanter's Flow, this is just another passive damage increase. Just gonna constantly go up and down. There's no need to kind of track this. There's no need to do anything with it. Just let it do its work passively. Spell Steal is a very good ability. Spell Steal is a very good ability on Arcane because it only costs 17,000 mana and you have 300k basically. So you see how much I can press Spell Steal, right? If you tried to do this on the other specs, you would be after 4 Spell Steals. So this is why Arcane is just so... Sorry, this is one of the reasons why Arcane is so good, is that you can literally infinitely Spell Steal. Which is just amazing because on Arcane, or sorry, on Fire and Frost, you're like, okay, the enemy has a Power Infusion up. He's got like a couple pad buffs on him now. I can maybe give 1 or 2 Spell Steals a try, see if I get it. On Arcane, you're like, oh, there's a PI. Okay, that's my buff now. Like, I'm going to take that buff. You know, you can literally just take any buff you want because you can just sit there and spam it regardless of RNG. So it's very, very nice ability on Arcane. And by the way, if you guys are like new completely, basically you can steal any magic buff with Spell Steal, and that'll be outlined in white. It's like whenever you target someone, the buffs will be highlighted white here. So you never really play any of these 2 talents as Arcane. You never play this. You will play Remove Curse in some games, and this is pretty much one of the only things that you'll change. So you can see I'm running Arcane Warding here over Remove Curse. So Remove Curse, you'll only want to play this into Warlocks and Shamans. You never want to play it into any other class. Only Warlocks and only Shamans, because they're the only classes that really have any curses that are worth decursing. But you don't need this when you aren't fighting them, so you can actually opt to take just 4% more damage. The way you would switch this is you would just take 1 out of Warding. So you could just do this, and then you can play Remove Curse. I'll have all these different builds in the description, so just keep an eye out for those. But yeah, Arcane Warding, just flat damage reduction is pretty good. Mirror Images, it's a very minor defensive cooldown, so whenever you place the mirror images down, you're going to take 20% reduced damage while they're active, but whenever you get hit, it's going to cause one of them to dissipate. So it really only ever lasts, you know, about 1 to maybe 3 seconds, this damage reduction. Shifting Power is very nice. We're going to talk about this later, how good this ability is and how to get value out of it, but just know for now that it reduces the cooldowns of all your mage abilities. Alter Time, biggest, number 1, like minor defensive cooldown. This is going to be a very good way to avoid damage. Alters the fabric of time, returning you to your current location in health when cast a second time or after 10 seconds. So Alter is just going to snapshot your HP here. So if I'm at 10% HP and I fly up in the air and I take a bunch of damage and I'm at 78% HP, I can alter back to 100. So this ability is very, very good for a lot of reasons. Good for positioning, like if you want to alter here, blink over here, alter back to kite someone, very good. It's also really good for just dodging damage. If a Chaos Bolt is being cast on you and you don't have a counterspell, you don't have a meld for it, you can alter it. It's going to absorb all that damage. Cryo Freeze, you'll only take this whenever you're playing with either World PvP or double DPS 2s. So I have a double DPS 2s build here that I will link in the description as well, which will include Cryo Freeze, so that you can heal while inside of your ice block, because you don't have a healer when you're playing double DPS 2s or when you're doing World PvP. So you want to be able to heal up. And we have a Quick Witted. So Quick Witted is going to mean that if you land your counterspell, it's going to reduce the cooldown by 4 seconds. This is obviously very good, because if you land your kick, it's a 20-second cooldown. Mass Poly, you don't really ever play this. Slow is a very good ability, mainly using this to CC healers, because not at every point will you want to throw your barrage to slow someone, especially when it's someone far away, like a healer. You can just have that ability to instantly snare anybody on the team without using Arcane Charges to do so, since keep in mind barrage will consume your charges if you have them. And if you want to slow this guy and you're kiting him, but you don't want to consume your charges, you can just put a slow up on him instead of using barrage. So now we have Master of Time. This talent is going to make Alter very, very good for kiting melees. So it reduces the cooldown of Alter by 10 seconds. That's also very good. It's gonna be a 50-second cooldown, and it's going to reset the cooldown of your blink and shimmer whenever you return. So this is gonna make it very easy for you to want to commit some mobility when you alter. So you alter time, and if these people are all on me, I'll just blink over here because I know when I alter back, it's gonna just refund that charge. Ready? I go back, watch my shimmer charges, goes back to 2. So yeah, very good in terms of mobility. You want to make sure you're getting value out of that. Canceling alters when you are shimmer is very low value. Like, you definitely want to avoid that, or else you'll feel very shimmer charged. You want to make sure you're always going back, but not to the point where if you're like 20% and you use alter, sometimes you can double press it like that. Like, if you're already really low, you're 10% life and you have no mobility, you're trying to get away and you're very low, you can just use it. You can just press it again, like double click it just for a shimmer charge, you know? Like, I do that quite a bit. Diverted is very bad in PvP because it's nerfed in half, or like a little bit more than half, I'm not sure. Ring of Frost, this is basically, I always refer to this thing as like a polymorph, but on a different school. So you can see when you have this like green ring, everything in this outer area will get rung. So like, if I'm the enemy and I'm in here, I'm just gonna get CC'd for like 8 seconds or 6 seconds. It's 6 because Dragonflight. Yeah, it's a very good ability. Ice Nova is really good, not for damage. A lot of people think this ability is for damage. It's more for CC. So it's a Nova that isn't on DR. So if I Nova someone and then they like Tiger's Lust that, I can just use my regular Nova. So it's just nice having a little, what I call like a little piss Nova, just, you know, 2 seconds of CC, annoying CC, micro CC. So now we have a Shimmer and Ice Flows. I think I want to have a separate section for these after I go over all the talents, because this is kind of a big topic. So I'm actually going to add this to my thing here. I'll do this next. Blink versus Shimmer. So we'll go over that shortly after we go over the rest of the talents. So we have Mass Slow, never playing this. Blast Wave is just going to be a very good knockback utility. So I'm not sure if it's going to work on this rat, but yeah, basically you use it and then it's going to be like an Ellie Shaman where it's just going to blast the enemies far away. Very good for just getting DPS off of you. However, keep in mind this does DR with other knockback effects. So if you're playing with a Druid on your team and they use Vortex and then you try to Blast Wave and it doesn't work, just know that it's because it's on DR, because someone else used another knockback at the same time. Okay, so Imp Nova is going to increase the duration of your Frost Nova by 2 seconds. Sometimes you take this when you're playing the Decurse build. So let's say you're fighting something where you don't need any magic damage reduction, but you want Decurse. So you can run this instead. So instead of having the Arcane Warding, you can just opt to play Improve Frost Nova, and that's just going to make your Nova last for 8 seconds rather than 6. It's a little bit better into melee classes where you don't need that magic damage reduction anyways. Rigid Ice, you'll never really take this. Tome of Ronin is okay, it's just a small amount of crit chance, why not? Tome of Anthonitis is very good, 2% haste, very, very good. Volatile Detonation increases the effect of Blast Wave and reduces the cooldown. That's gonna be what makes Blast Wave an actual ability, so that's very good. Energized Barrier is very good. The really important part about this is that the snares are removed every time you press Barrier. So just to give you a visual thing here, you know, DK is on you, he has Chains of Ice on you, you're walking at 10% movement speed. Whenever you Barrier, it's going to reduce, or it's going to get rid of that debuff on you, so you can be walking full speed. That's very good with Chrono Shift, especially because, like I said, if you have Chrono Shift up and you're walking at this movement speed and then you Barrier, you're going to immediately just go into NASCAR status and be zooming around. Rigid Winds, you don't really ever take this. Flow of Time is going to reduce the cooldown of your Blink and Shimmer. I think these are nerfed in PvP. So, unfortunately, it's not going to be 4 seconds. I believe it's nerfed in half. So, it's only 2 seconds. Yeah. And then Temporal Velocity, this is kind of like a, you know, you're really just taking this to get down to DB and the other ones. But the movement speed is nice. After you blink, it's like a little extra buff. It's also purgeable, so it's a little bit of purge protection, just increases your movement speed. Same with Alter. When you go back, you get a 40% movement speed buff. You never take these 3 talents over here: Ice Ward, Freezing Cold, or Ice Cold. They're just not very good talents. Time Manipulation: every time you consume a clear casting, it's going to reduce the cooldown of your loss of control abilities. So the loss of control abilities, I don't know why they word it like this, but basically it's DB, it's Dragon's Breath, Ring of Frost, Ice Nova, and Frost Nova. Those are the only 4 that it reduces. So it's just nice to have. These are all like kind of decently long cooldowns: 45, 45, 25, and 30. So just being able to passively farm those back by using damaging buttons like missiles, like clear casting missiles, it's going to be very nice. Displace is another huge tool on Arcane. So like I said, you already have a shit ton of mobility with Shimmer, or sorry, Alter, Shimmer, Alter back, Shimmer, Displace, Shimmer. Like you have the ability to just blink everywhere around the map. So Shimmer is going to say, or sorry, Displace is going to be, teleports you back to where you last blinked, and it heals you for about 100k, only usable within 8 seconds of blinking. So this talent is kind of, I always thought this talent was very big brain, because you have to remember where you were standing when you last blinked. So it could take some getting used to. This also, with the rework that just came out for mages like a little bit ago, it added a healing component to it, so you also get a nice heal. So something I like to do is if I'm, let's say I'm 50% life and I blink, I really want to alter. What I'll do is I'll get the heal value from this first. So I'll displace back over to my beacon. You can see whenever you blink, it leaves a little beacon behind. So you blink, displace beacon's over there. Then you can displace back, get that heal, and then you can alter at that higher amount of HP. It's like really good to like try to pair your abilities like that. Just try to get max value out of them. Again, very good tool. It's also good to use on like Z axis. So if you're up here or something and you're trying to kite some enemies, so you're over here and I blink and I try to jump off the map on Blade's Edge, I could displace back up towards my old location there whenever they jump down too. So it's good for kiting. Very, very good for kiting. Accumulative shielding is very good for Arcane because Arcane has a very good barrier. It's like the best barrier out of all the mages. The fire barrier is really trash. No one really cares if you're getting hit by a thorns effect. That's also the barrier duration on fire is a lot smaller, or the size of it. And frost barrier is just not very good because it's the melee have to be already attacking you to get any value out of it with the slow. So yeah, this is going to be very, very good. Anytime you have your barrier up, it's going to reduce the cooldown. You can see how it's going down more than 1 second. Whereas if I just took the talent, or I took the barrier off, you can see how much slower it's counting down now. Yeah. So greater invis, a lot of people are kind of confused on this ability, but this is your wall. So it actually replaces your invis now. You don't have a normal invis anymore. So you can't really start games in invis. That's something that you guys are going to have to just get used to. But it actually works out really well for Arcane because you don't want to start the game in Viz on Arcane anyways, and we'll get into that later. But yeah, the part you care about this talent the most is you take 60% reduced damage after reappearing. So you get hit, you want to use this as your major defensive. You're getting hits, and then you want to wall at. I refer to this ability as wall because in WoW, like every class has like a wall. That's what we just call them. It's a damage reduction. And this is your fattest amount of damage reduction, 60%. So very, very important. Then we have DB. DB is a classic ability. You guys probably know what DB does at this point. But yeah, it's a cone shaped ability that is a CC effect for 3 seconds. So it'll DB in this like little area here that I'm making with my mouse. It should hit like all 3 of these targets. It has that nice little AoE effect. You can see it just DBs for 4 seconds. Now this does break on all damage, so you don't want to do it when targets have dots and whatever. The most common way you are going to use this is to try to CC people, so you can DB someone into polymorph. Very good. Then we have Time Anomaly. Time Anomaly is a huge button just for offensive purposes. You're going to get Surge from it. You're going to get Time Warp from it. You're going to get Clear Casting from it. And Time Warp is going to be the best one that you're going to get because you're going to get random lust procs like this. So you can see your globals now. If I'm just spamming Barrage, you'll get these random procs to give you Time Warp. That's going to make your haste just so much faster. You can see the speed of what I'm getting my globals out is insane. You can see my global cooldown is basically non-existent almost. So yeah, you'll get procs of that, and that's huge when you get them at the right time. So let's see. Then we have Mass Barrier. So Mass Barrier is very, very good for Arcane because of the barrier effect that we have. So when you put Mass Barrier on people, it's gonna basically, the reason you're gonna be doing this is to reduce harmful magic effects. So one example I would have is if I'm fighting a Shadow Priest or a Hunter and I see them stun my healer and they're either gonna trap off or fear off, or maybe like a Paladin is gonna hodge into rep, something like that, where they're about to get magic CC'd with either trap, silence, fear, hodge, rep, whatever. You want to try to time this barrier in a way that you can reduce that CC on your healer. So this is going to just be so strong that you want to look for doing this. Also, it's just good for obvious purposes like shielding them if they're dying, but it's really, really effective, much more effective to CC to CC them or to reduce CC with the barrier. All right, so real quick, I want to go over the difference between Blink Stun and Shimmer and when you should be running the two. So in short, I only run Blink Stun when I'm fighting sub rogues and when I'm playing comps where I'm not aiming to go for crowd control. So the easy way to think about it would be, do I want to push in and try to start goes with Polymorph? If so, then you can play Shimmer. If the answer is that you want to chill back, only do damage and only do follow-up CC with polymorphs, not really starting the go with poly, then Ice Flows is better. So Ice Flows is like a little bit more of a defensive pick in terms of like it's gonna be able to get you out of stuns whenever you are. So like here, I'll just show you real quick. So Ice Flows is gonna give you normal blink, and normal blink is gonna be on the global. It's gonna free you from stuns on an 11-second cooldown. And you're going to have Ice Flows, which lets you cast 3 spells while moving. The only issue with Ice Flows is that it's like a lot more counterplay. So against an enemy healer, if this mage right here is Ice Flows, I know that I can just sit right here and I can just spam out heals. And if he starts casting sheep on me, all I have to do is just LOS it. Whereas if this mage was Shimmer, and he started casting sheep and I went to go LOS it, he could just Shimmer in here, you know, like he could be sheeping and then Shimmer into the room last second and get the sheep anyways. So trying to land sheeps with Blink Stun is definitely very, very hard. It's still possible, like I said, like if you want to do follow-up CC, like off of a Hodge or a cheap shot or something or whatever, but I mainly play Shimmer as Arcane. However, like I said, into sub rogue, you could play Blink Stun. It also depends on the comp you're running. However, with a lot of the comps that Arcane runs, you're trying to play the game in a way where you want to push in. So the comps I play personally are like RMP, FMP. Well, those are my 2 main comps. And I'll play Shimmer pretty much 100% of the games into those unless it's a sub rogue. In Shuffle, a lot of the times it's going to this is where you're going to be having to change it a lot of the times because it kind of depends. You're going to face a lot of different comps. You're going to play a lot of different comps. And you just have to decide if it's a game where you want to sheep or not. So you'll take out, if you want to go into Ice Flows or something and you don't really want to press Polymorph a whole lot, then you can take out Shimmer and then you could take out Master Shepherd and you could go more defensive talents like Short Wall, or you could go Arcanosphere, which is, you know, I don't do this a whole lot, but I'm saying like you have options here when you want to pick that last talent. I normally just play with Shepherd and Shimmer every game because for me it's more fun. The way mages play, like the way that you play mage with Ice Flows, and if you wanted to play either a defensive talent or offensive talent here, this would be like a Dragonflight play style, like early Dragonflight play style, where basically you want to stay 40 yards from the entire enemy team and you want to only just do damage and you never press polymorph ever. To me, the fantasy for mage, like the fun part of playing mage, is the fact that you can win with sheep. So like you can sheep someone, then do your burst, you get their trinket, and then next time you sheep them, they won't have trinket for it, and you burst them down again, and you win the game. So I really like winning with CC. So I play Shimmer Sheep, like Shimmer with Master Shepherd. I play this a lot of the times. Yeah, like I said, unless there's a sub rogue, normally I'll just take Shimmer pretty much always. So yeah, I hope you guys got a little bit information there about when to take Blink and when to take Shimmer. That'll be a nice segue to start talking a little bit more about the PvP talents here. So Ring of Fire is going to be a talent that we're going to take pretty much all the time. So Ring of Fire is a very good button to sort of start interactions with. I always say this, but if a target is at 100% HP and you put a Ring of Fire on them, it's going to do 8% of their life every 3 seconds. So the reason why this is so good to start damage rotations is because now if I start bursting and the target has a Ring of Fire on them, it's just like an extra dot that they're going to be taking down the whole time. And that Ring of Fire is actually going to apply to your Magi damage now with the recent change. So yeah, you can see into this particular target, it didn't do that much damage because that was all of my cooldowns. But yeah, Ring of Fire, when you get it on like 3 different targets, this is going to do a lot of damage and add a lot of pressure, especially if you get Orb Barrage procs right here and you're just doing damage and you get procs. That rotation is going to look a little bit different. Like, yeah, Ring of Fire does a lot of damage. Very underrated ability, I would say. Like, a lot of people don't put as much value into Ring of Fire as it deserves. You want to be very precise with this button. You don't just want to like throw it away. It is a lot of damage. So make sure you're landing your Ring of Fires and that you're not just placing them in a non-good position. Temporal Shield is another decent talent that we're going to be picking a lot. It helps you in a temporal shield for 4 seconds. 100% of all damage taken while shielded will be instantly restored when the shield ends. So there is something to be said about buttons like this. One tip I do have with temp is it's not on the global, so you want to try to make sure you have this on a button that doesn't have a modifier, because temp is kind of awkward to press if you have it on a modifier since it's off global. I think a good like rule of thumb is to just have buttons that are off global be key bound to something that is not on, like a shift modifier, alt modifier, control, whatever. Even better if you can get it on your mouse, because you don't have to screw up your movement when you use it. So you can always make sure you're pressing it at a good time. So yeah, temp is going to just be like what I refer to it as, like a little mini altar. It's going to heal you for 4% or for 100% of all the damage taken after 4 seconds. So it's kind of nice because you can rotate between your temps and your altars and your barriers and your walls and your mobility. And this combination of spells is how you're going to gain your tankiness as an arcane mage. Then we have Master Shepherd. So when an enemy player is affected by poly, your movement speed is increased by 25%. That part you don't really care about. The part that's very important is the verse increased by 12%. So, oh, and also additionally, the polymorph will not heal enemies. So the reason why this is so good is because, look, like, remember the playstyle we were describing when we were talking about Shimmer versus Blinkstone. If this Stormwind Rat right here is like the person, is like the enemy healer, right? I get my sheep, and then I start doing my burst damage. I'm going to have 12% verse for this go, and basically what that means is that's going to be 12% damage. As versatility increases damage and healing done and decreases damage taken, so you're getting a nice like tankiness buff from sheeping people, and you're getting a nice damage buff. So it's just going to make the playstyle of playing for CC stronger, which is, I love that kind of playstyle, and that's a good playstyle for Arcane. You have the tools to play like that, which is very, very awesome, and what makes the spec so much fun. Very good button. Also, it makes polymorph not heal, which is like a little added bonus. Obviously, not really playing any of these other talents too much, to be honest. The only thing that could be said is that when you fight something that's very anti-mage, such as, let's say, something that I play short wall into a lot is DK Hunter, an Holy DK Marksman Hunter, Survival Hunter, whatever. I'm not going to really be able, I'm going to get trained very, very hard this game. So I'm not going to play either Master Shepherd, and I'll go for the Master of Escape talent, which is going to mean, which is going to say that like my greater invis is going to have a shorter cooldown. So this is your wall, remember, 60% damage reduct. You could take it over Ring of Fire too, but I don't really like that. I value Ring of Fire very highly. And then the other talent you could play is like Arcanosphere. However, I personally don't recommend playing Arcanosphere. I think it's very hard to get value out of. You do want to use it for damage sometimes if you do play it. However, it's also, I think where it gets its most value is trying to knock casts with it, or you can knock people into like Ring of Frost and stuff with it as well. But like I said, I don't really recommend taking it. I feel like if you pick this talent, you're more of like a for fun talent rather than like you are really trying to win the game. Because it is kind of a fun ability, but I just think there are better competitive options like Short Wall, maybe Klepto, maybe Master Shepherd. Ice Wall could be a little bit underrated. I would never play Ethereal Blink because it just doesn't get a whole lot of value. I think it's like 5 seconds off a Shimmer with maximum value. So I don't really recommend that too much. But to be honest, you'll be playing with these three a majority of the time. And then if you want a more defensive option, you can take out either Ring of Fire or Shepherd for short wall. Not really playing Mass Invis ever anymore because I think the Mass Barrier with the effect that Prismatic Barrier has is just too strong. So yeah, that's pretty much all that it comes down to with the talents. Yeah, there's not really much more to be said on that. I'll have all my builds here because I have like the RBG build, and then I have a RM2s / dueling build, and then there's another 3s build, which is the one that is just this, which you'll run that 3v3, and that is with D-Curse. So yeah, those will all be in the comments or the description or somewhere down below, so make sure to check that out if you want the builds. You can also just join my Discord channel. My Discord channel has all the builds, and I keep it fully up to date. I'll pull it up here for you, so you can see my Discord here. It's gonna have all the arcane builds, and the 3s shuffle, 2s with healers, and I'll add the RBG one in there. It'll have builds for all the specs as well, and the Dragonflight Mage build section, so check that out. So now a little bit what I want to talk about is going to be some like gameplay aspects of Arcane, stuff that's really going to help you make sure that you're actually getting a lot of value out of your spells and getting the most value out of certain talents, and these are going to be some of the most important. So the first one is going to be Arcane Tempo. So Arcane Tempo, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but to go over it more, or just to reiterate in case you're skipping around, it's a buff that every time you press Barrage, literally anytime you press Barrage, it's going to give you this buff, 1 stack of it. So you can see every time I press it, I get 1 stack, 2 stacks, 3 stacks. And this is going to continually increase your haste. And it lasts about 12 seconds or so. Yep, 12 seconds. So it's very important to keep this buff up the whole game because it's going to keep your global cooldown low. It's going to keep you able to have that shorter global and just keep your haste nice and high, which is what you want to maintain throughout the whole game, ideally. There's like the second part of this notepad that I wrote here, a delicate balance between damage and keeping your globals high. The reason why I say that is because by spending Barrage or by throwing your Barrage, you'll at times use, like if I just do my damage rotation here, there's going to be a point in time where I'm going to need to refresh my tempo, but I'm also going to have to expend all my arcane charges to do that. So you need to, there is a balance. There's a nice way that you can do both ideally, and I'll teach you that once we get into the rotation. But yeah, you can think of it like a nice, just a balance between that. Like they're about to fall there, so I had to throw it, but I knew that they were about to fall, so that's why like a couple globals earlier, I was getting my clear castings up and I was spending those so I could get my harmony stacks, so that right before they're about to fall, what's falling in line in the rotation is Barrage anyways. So it's just a very delicate machine balance of globals, and ideally you want to try to time that Barrage right as you would need to refresh your tempo stacks anyways. And if you can maintain that throughout the whole game, it just feels so good. There are some times where you're gonna have to make where you're either gonna have to let it fall because you either screwed up earlier or something. A lot of the times you can maintain it. I just want you guys to be thinking about that and really see the importance of Arcane Tempo. Now we're gonna be talking a little bit about the burst rotation on Arcane Mage. So there is like a couple things that you want to do here. For the burst rotation, the main thing that you want to do is you want to first make sure that you have 5 tempo stacks. You don't want to be bursting without these ideally. So ideally have 5 arcane tempo stacks beforehand. Then ideally you want to spend your charges before you magi. So what this can look like is, let's say, you know, you have your 5 tempo and you have some charges here, and then you're going to start to send your burst. You would want to barrage first here before you touch. So like barrage and then touch, because you want to, it would be less value to just let those 2 charges go to waste when you could just spend it. Also refresh your tempo before you're about to burst. The reason why like it's good to do this before you send it in is because then during your magi window, you aren't sending another barrage to try to refresh your tempo mid burst. You know, you're kind of like refreshing it at the perfect time, very preemptively. So yeah, spend your charges before you magi, have your 5 stacks. Okay, and then we'll get into the burst a little bit. Obviously, this is another one. This is like a little bit optional, but if you can do it and there is time, then you should look to do this, and that is to spell steal the target to where they're clean, So what this will also do is this will give you clear castings. So this will build up clear castings. So this is, like I said, it is optional because not in every single scenario will you want this to be done, because sometimes you need to get that surge off a little bit earlier, or just to like send it, you know, get that shit on cooldown, get the momentum of the game started. But yeah, this is going to build up clear castings for you. So ideally, yeah, you have your 5 tempos. Will act like these are spell steals, because like you can't necessarily spell steal this target. Yeah, you spell steal a little bit, and that's going to build up your clear castings. So then ideally you're starting now your burst rotation with clear castings. So if you have 5 stacks of tempo, the target is clean, and you have clear castings, you are ready to send in your surge. So this is like the most best scenario that you could possibly have. So this will be the most ideal rotation, will be to have all this stuff done, have these preemptive tasks done already. And then what you want to do is you want to Arcane Surge, Magi. And remember, if you have Arcane Charges here, before you Magi, you want to send in the Barrage. So Barrage if you have charges. Into Magi. Into Clear Casting. Or sorry, into Nether Tempest. If Nether Tempest, if you won't break CC. So that's important. It's very important to make sure that whenever you apply this Nether Tempest, that you won't actually be breaking any CC. If you do break CC with it, the value of the spell is completely down the drain. It does add about 100k damage onto a go. Like a full application of Nether Tempest is going to be about 100k. You don't want to break CC with this. This is a very good like min-max way of damage. It's a very good way to like min-max some damage. You can see it does about, actually this one was only about 60k without CDs up, but yeah, it adds somewhere between 60 to 100k per go, damage on the go. So it's up to you guys to judge value based on that, whether or not you want to apply it. But anyways, Arcane Surge, Barrage if you have the charges, into Magi. You can apply a Tempest here if you want. If you know you won't break CC for it, it's fine. Then what you want to do is you want to go into Clear Casting Missiles, into Palm, 2 times Arcane Blast. And then from here, you want to Barrage. Then from here, this is when it gets a little bit of a priority system. So from here, if you have Clear Castings, so now it goes into priority system. From here, there is priorities. The first, like the highest priority will be that if you have more Clear Castings, you want to use those. So Clear Casting into Barrages. So Clear Casting and then into Barrage, and then into Orb, into more Clear Castings, into Barrage. This will be the best way. However, if you do find yourself without more Clear Castings here, then what you would want to do is you would want to just, if no Clear Castings, then you would want to just Orb into Barrage, into Orb, into Barrage. If you are, now there's another one. Now, if no Clear Castings, but you can free cast, Then you might want to do blast until clear casting, and then send in the clear casting, and then send in the barrage, and then you can go into your orbs. Now, just to like give you a visual representation of this, yeah, we're gonna just do this. We're gonna also build up clear castings real quick, because this is gonna act like I'm spell stealing the target. Okay, so I have all those done. I can get my pre-ring of fire down, which I did forget to add. Surge, barrage. I'm not gonna do a tempest here. I guess I will late. 2 arcane blasts, and then that. The orb. Now you can go back into your clear castings, into barrage, into more clear castings, into orb, into barrage, into just spend all of your clear castings. That's gonna be the most ideal way. You want to keep the blasting to a minimum unless you really need to. Missiles and barrages are going to be your most damage that you can possibly do, because the missiles do the most amount of damage out of like all of your spells in terms of like fillers, and then barrages are going to just do so much damage with full charges and a 10 stack harmony. So the blasts are really only there for when you are in like maybe this scenario where you have no clear castings and you're just trying to fish for them. Like, you want to use blast to kind of fish for clear castings. Like, see, now I got one, so I'll do another one. I'll just keep going here, try to get one more, and then I'll go into my orbs, and I'm getting orb barrage procs here, so this is awesome. And that's going to be just another really good rotation there. Yeah, definitely let me know what you guys think about all of that. I know it seems a bit harder than it is. Once you kind of get all of this down, it's really not that bad. I want to show you guys another surge that's maybe not the most ideal surge. Well, maybe you want to just send it as soon as you get in. I would still first build up the tempo, then I would get a ring of fire down, and then I would just send in my surge, refresh the tempo, magi, tempest, missiles, double blast, and then from here I'm just gonna send in my harmony, orb, more clear castings, send in harmony. I got a proc, squeeze in one blast, then in the orb, one more blast into barrage. So that's gonna be another one, like another rotation that you could do, one where you aren't starting with so many clear castings. However, starting with clear castings is very helpful, because just having that insane burst window is gonna make your damage a lot higher than the other arcane mages. Definitely be trying to do that if you can, but just keep in mind that not always you'll be able to get such a clean rotation like that. However, I think it's important to fish for that, to try to aim to have your rotations that clean. Let me know what you guys think on that, and we'll just go on now to what to do in your downtime between your arcane surges and your magi. Alright, now that we've been over burst rotation a little bit, I want to go over what to do in your downtime now. So for your downtime, a lot of what you're going to be doing is trying to sort of pull back, because as the burst rotation implies, this is a lot of like, you just pushed into the enemy team, you tried to get all of your damage out, you tried to force as many cooldowns as you can, you've completely ran out of damage now, your surge is over, your magi is over, your palm is over, they've traded defensive cooldowns, you know, you got bubble, block, whatever, bark skin. Now, as that go is ending, as your burst rotation is ending, this is when you want to start to kite out of, basically you want to just get better positioning, defensive positioning. You want to be positioned now in a way where it's going to make it hard for them to do any damage to you. So this is why Arcane is so strong, is because you have the mobility like that to get across the map very easily. So this is when you are going to like shimmer backwards, and you're just going to keep snares up on people. You're going to play near pillars so that if people are casting on you, you can just, oh, he's casting this surge here, I can just walk around the corner real quick and it'll cancel it. You know, you're trying to avoid damage that way. Your spell stealing targets to either, you know, get either hots on yourself, like get renews, get rejuves, steal fortitude, steal offensive buffs like, you know, power infusion, stuff like that. So you're just trying to be very annoying. You're trying to keep everyone slow. You're trying to keep everyone from having any buffs. You're going to be using, your counter spell to avoid damage. So let's say you are in here, and before you can get all the way out, you shimmer over here, but you get chastised stunned by someone. and then you start getting like a Mind Games and a Chaos Bolt casted on you, then at this point you'll either have to use your Shadow Meld or your Alter or your Temp, and you might have to trade your Trinket for one of these. You could either Trinket CS, so if I get Chastised on here and I'm getting Chaos Bolted and it was on its way to hit me and the Chastise stun ends, I could just opt to trade my Shadow Meld there, so that wouldn't want to be one that I would want to Trinket. However, if I was running back here and let's say I was snared and I couldn't quite get to the pillar quite in time and he's casting Chaos Bolt or Ray of Frost or something, you could CS, and that's going to allow you to just get to the pillar, to get more defensive positioning. And yeah, you want to be using your Temp and your Alter time as well to avoid as much damage as possible. That's basically all it comes down to, really, is you want to just be kind of taking in a more defensive mindset. You want to be spell stealing. This is going to set you up for your next surge too, because keep in mind, this kind of plays into this. So you want to, try to make sure you're cleaning up the target and building up your clear castings for your next go. You can spend your clear castings as you get them as well, like just to do a little bit of downtime damage. Like I said, your consistent damage on Arcane isn't that great. This is what I would say your consistent damage is like you have Ring of Fire, you have Barrage, you get an Orb Barrage proc, and then you have some clear castings. I wouldn't really want to spend my orbs too much outside of my go, so I wouldn't opt to send in orbs all the time. So generating charges here can be hard, so you want to cling on to them when you have them. Like maybe you send one right now because you're at 2, so you want to keep one on cooldown at least. So now that you're here, maybe you can start to send some blast if you have time to free cast. Just fish for a clear casting. Make sure you reset that tempo. Luckily you got a Arcane Barrage proc or an Orb Barrage, and then you just get more clear castings, and like I said, you can spend those as you get them. Like I said, your downtime is a lot of going to be setting up for your next burst rotation in terms of positioning and in terms of spell stealing. So not too much to say more about that, honestly. Now I want to talk a little bit more about how to get a lot of value out of your shifting power, because this is going to play into your rotation as well. So let's talk about that now. So a general thing to know with shifting power is that you want to try to get as much value out of this ability as you can by resetting as many cooldowns as you can. If you read the ability, it does a little bit of damage AoE, but you don't really care too much about that part. The part that you care about is that your Mage ability cooldowns are reduced by 12 seconds, and that's over the course of the full channel. So you can get a lot of value out of this spell by having a lot more stuff on cooldown. However, there are such things as like offensive shiftings and defensive shiftings as well. So I would say, like, for an offensive one, to reset your, and what I mean by offensive is that you want to use this to reset your offensive cooldown. You're gonna just like do your normal rotation, right? Whatever. You do your burst damage, and then all of your cooldowns now, like your Magi, your Palm, and everything is on cooldown. So this would be a really good time to shift after your surge is over, because all of your cooldowns and your orbs need reset. However, like right now you would want to press shifting, but there are a couple things that you can do extra to get more value out of it. Like I can use my barrier real quick, and then I can go into my shifting power, because basically now it just resets it to the same amount, and I now have another barrier. So you want to be thinking about stuff like that, and like, how can I squeeze more value out of shifting? And now that you have your damaging cooldowns back, you're going to send those in, and you see those are going to line up again with your surge come next surge, right? So you'll see I'll have my next surge here pretty soon. If I didn't use that downtime of explaining to you guys that you need to like look for more cooldowns, like your barrage or your barrier and stuff, you would see that your surge and your Magi would line up pretty much perfectly with each other. Yeah, it's very important to try to use shifting power in this way to just reduce as many cooldowns as possible. There also are a couple different tricks that you could do with shifting. This is obviously the most important, is trying to milk the value out of it. Obviously, when we shifted right there, I didn't have any of my defensive buff on cooldown. Like I didn't have my altar, I didn't have any shimmers, I didn't have my wall. So those will be a different one. Maybe you're going to be in this where you have no wall, you have no barrier, but you do have your damaging cooldowns, and you're just dying and you're trying to get to your next barrier, then you can shifting here to try to reset your defensives a little bit faster. So that would be more of a defensive shifting. And both of these happen often. It's going to be up to you guys in the moment to decide whether or not which one the situation calls for. Just know that both do exist and you will be doing both often. Obviously, the most ideal would be if you could get every single cooldown. Like if you did your go, your Arcane Surge go, and then you had to use your defensives immediately after that, then shifting after you've done your damage and after you've lived would be the most amount of value. So look out for those as well. There are a couple tricks with shifting power. For example, if you get kicked, you can shifting and it will actually it like kind of gets rid of the kick on you for certain spells. So if I were to get CS locked out right here, I could just go immediately into a shifting and I would be able to use my counter spell 1 global later. If someone tried to, let's say, CS you into a sheep on the healer, you could shifting your lockout real quick. Yeah, that's basically, other mages will do this to you as well. So in the mage mirror, be looking out for that. And then also the AoE portion of it, you can fish for targets in stealth. So if a rogue vanishes and you saw where he was going, you could just use this ability to try to get him out of stealth. It's kind of a niche case, but sometimes it's good. And that's all I really have to say about shifting power. Basically, I'm going to go over a set of games here, and I'm going to try to break down the globals for you. This type of gameplay is going to be, this is just, I'm queuing FMP right now. These are actual 3v3 arenas. This is not shuffle or anything like that. This is going to be a good demonstration on how to do two things, and that is how to play for CC, which is a playstyle that you're going to need to use on Arcane or just on Mage in general to win games, and how you're going to trade your defensives with your healer. So it's going to captivate those two things. I will do another one based off of shuffle. Yeah, there's going to be how to play in the coordinated team environment, and then how to play in shuffle. And both of those gameplay examples will also cover how to trade cooldowns. And what I mean by trade cooldowns, basically for people who don't know, is that maybe whenever your healer gets CC'd, you don't want to overuse cooldowns. You don't want to use alter, you don't want to use block, you don't want to use wall at the same time that your healer is going to use like Trinket Guardian for you or something like that. So basically just making sure that you're flowing through your defensive cooldowns efficiently, and also using CC in order to win games that you can win efficiently and do damage efficiently as well. So we have some really good games here. This is FMP into actually one of the best teams on NA. It's Sea-Doo, Trill, and Samayam. So these are some really, really good games, basically. So we'll just back it up and we'll start it from the very start. So you can see the very first thing I do is I go in and I'm just spamming out barrages. I'm basically just trying to stack up at my tempo here. I try to get my surge off now that I'm at full tempo. I apply my Magi into Tempest, into Barrage, and then I just continue to spam out missiles into more orbs, into Palm double Arcane Blast here. However, they're stopping my momentum here with a Root Beam on my healer and a kidney shot on me. However, I noticed that my healer, or like where I'm in comms here, so this is coordinated 3v3. My healer is out of the beam currently. I always track what my team CC is in with big debuffs here. So you can see like I'm in the kidney. Any CC on my healer would show right here. So Incarn is being popped on me, every single cooldown on me. But I know not to overtrade here. I don't trinket wall, I don't ice block, I don't do anything. My healer has me. So yeah, he enters in angel form here, and then he casts Divine Hymn, so I should be completely fine now. So I do wall outside of the, or as soon as I exit the kidney shot, just to help alleviate some damage here, because this is not what I would call, like, because it is Incarn and the rogue's offensive damage here with Adrenaline Rush, it's fine to get this on cooldown so that it'll match up with the Incarn that will come 2 minutes from now as well. Yeah, basically the way a 3v3 game is gonna go is like, now that they just had some crazy momentum, now it's our turn to have momentum here. I sheep the rogue, my barrel is stunning the kill target here, so I'm just trying to kill this guy with Palm double Arcane Blast and to execute Barrage. What I'll do is I'll displace back here now that our momentum is sort of over. I do miss my kick. One thing you want to be very careful with is a lot of the times boomies are going to try to fake cast their clones. You want to just be very patient with your kick. You don't want to try to rush it. So you see he's casting clone. He jukes it about, I would say this is what, 55 to 60% of the way through the cast. This is never the area that you want to juke. You want to try to juke more towards, or sorry, you want to use your counter spell. Either if you're going to use it fast, you want to do it very fast. If you are like, the best way to kick is going to be at the very end. Yeah, I fucked up in getting faked here. You never want to try to kick in this region because this is how you're going to donate precog all the time. Yeah, I displaced back from our go on the dragon. I accidentally give the boomy precog, which he then lands a full hold on my healer. And right now I'm just trying to do some consistent damage. So as you know that we've talked about in the guide before, you don't have the most consistent damage here. However, there isn't really much more for me to do right now. There's not really any significant buffs on the rogue here that I need to spell steal. I could be stacking my tempo. However, I do have a little bit of Arcane Surge. I know if I throw my Barrage here, I'm going to lose all my charges and have no way to get them back. So I just opt to do it for a couple of blasts since the rogue is getting a little bit low. And then once I throw all my damage, which is going to be my barrage and my orbs, and I have no more, then I opt to go into the defensive mode, which it lines up perfectly because my healer is in clone. So even just the flow of the game is setting me up in a perfect way to trade my cooldowns here, because I just got done with all of my damage and now my healer's in a cyclone, so I opt to pop the alter time. So this is gonna be really good. And you'll notice one thing where I'm standing, I'm trying to avoid the dragon from using Tip the Scales, which is Fire Breath. Tip the Scales makes your next empowered ability instant, so he can Fire Breath purge my altar off. So I'm trying to avoid that. So you can see I'm just running away from him. This is going to be another really big responsibility for you as an Arcane Mage whenever you fight Evoker healers. So you can see Nullifying Shrouds have gotten active. This is going to immune the next 3 CCs onto the dragon. Luckily, as an Arcane Mage, you're able to spell steal infinitely, so you can just spell steal all these off. So I'm using my focus spell steal macro to just continuously spell steal those. I do get full kidney shot here. Incarn is still up for about 5 seconds. Fire Breath is being purged or casted onto me. So I have Trinket here. However, I don't really have any significant buttons to pair with it. I don't have Trinket Alter. I don't have Trinket Wall. The only thing I really have to pair is like Trinket Meld and Temp. However, Temp is too long of a heal. It's going to take me 4 seconds to heal. I'm already 20% life. Okay, I'm actually going to show you guys our comms here. Anything else? Is this my Trinket? I don't have anything to pair with. I blocked. So that's going to be a typical way that you guys are going to try to talk about your comms or try to talk about your defensive trades. You want to try to decide early in the go who's trading, so you make sure there's no panic overlaps. So luckily, yeah, we don't over trade here for this entire go. Basically, they're just going to get my block. My healer's going to be able to sit, isn't going to have to trade his Trinket, because it's very important, especially versus setup based comps, like we're a setup based comp versus a setup based comp. Being able to hold onto your Trinket and not over trade, so not wasting your Trinket, your healer's not wasting his Trinket. Very, very important. So as soon as I come out of block, you can see me spamming spell steal, trying to get the Nullifying Shrouds. So I'll go ahead and pop my Temp Shield here at a high amount of HP, because you want to try to use this as high. Well, you don't want to use it as high as possible, but if you're getting low, you want to definitely pop it, especially if you don't have an altar. However, I do actually make a mistake. You don't want to temp and then barrier like one global after, because the temp is only going to heal you for the amount of damage it absorbs. So if you barrier here, this damage that's being put into barrier isn't going to get healed. So this temp effectively did basically nothing. Now imagine if I tempt all that damage instead of it going into my barrier, and then right now it expired and it topped me, then I would be able to top myself even more with barrier. And you can use barrier as sort of a stop. So let's say I temp at like this HP and I'm getting bursted down really hard and I get really low, then I can barrier to buy myself 1 more second for my temp to pop. So very good to do that. I made a little bit of a mistake. So now let's look at how, keep in mind the ebb and flow of a game. So I just had to use my block. I got all the Nullifying Shrouds off. Now I want to look for a sheep. So now I'm fishing for a sheep. Like I said, I just came out of block, spamming spell seals, got all the Nullifying Shrouds off. Now I need to get a sheep, but the rogue has kick. Over here, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get precog. I fake him very early and I get precog here. Full sheep on the healer. Now I'm just trying to kill. I have to blink away because I'm getting really low. I sheep the rogue because that was kind of our go. We got the rogue Shrinker, we got bark skin, we did a lot of damage. You can see here I get some very nice arcane barrage procs because I throw in my barrage, it procs an orb. So I just go and I do it again, and then I do it again, and I just keep getting procs. My entire team is in CC here, so this is kind of scary. I opt to trade Trinket because I thought if I didn't Trinket here, I was going to die. My Feral trinkets too, so it was a little bit of a bad Trinket by me. Honestly, I think I could have sat. As you can see, I don't even take that much damage really. Rogue gets back on me, so I do have my Displace over here. On my action bars, I do try to group stuff very efficiently to where if I'm in danger like I currently am, I can just look down at my action bars and I can see very clearly what's available. You can see a trend where I try to keep all my offensive stuff here on the left and then a lot of my defensive stuff here on the right. I'm looking down here when I'm really low and I'm like, okay, what do I have? What do I have? Displace. Okay, I can displace back to where I was. I have my barrier in 2 seconds, my healer's in a beam. I can shifting power all that stuff back. So now I'm shifting power. My damage is coming up. My altar and stuff is back, so I can look to use that high. However, my team is doing a good job at setting up this next go because I was the one under pressure. If you're the one under pressure, then ideally you want to have the other DPS on your side. So in this case, my Feral, he wants to try to land some CC on the healer. And if they were going your Feral, it would be me trying to get some CC on this Evoker. So yeah, I displace back, shifting, get my barrier up, don't have CS for that. So now that we have a bash on the Evoker here, I'm just going to start going ham with damage. So I follow up this bash with a sheep. Now I'm just trying to kill here. I get a surge proc here, so I'm just trying to use all my instant cast that I can because the rogue does have a kick for me. I actually juke the rogue's kick, I get the resheep, and then now I'm just casting Arcane Blast into Ring of Fire, Palm, double Arcane Blast, and this is really unfortunate. I am cheap shot right now with a 91% alter time, but I can't actually go back because the rogue is dancing on me and he's just going to continuously re-cheap shot me. So my healer is forced to trade out the life swap, which is super unfortunate, but it is what it is. So I alter back here. The enemy team is playing very, very well. We haven't really been able to get close to a kill yet, and they've forced a lot of our cooldowns. So now I'm trying to get my surge off because this is a moment where they don't have any interrupts. The dragon's kick is on cooldown, beam is on cooldown, the rogue has no step kick. So I realize this is like a very prime opportunity to get my surge off. So I blink backwards here because my healer is in a blind. So I want to make sure that I'm actually going to be LOSing the Boomy. I'm also looking to disrupt the rogue from being able to sap this, but he does have cloak up, so there's not really much I can do. The only thing I can really press here is temp, and I could blink backwards if needed. I opt to use mirror images and temp. And now because I have my surge up, I'm going to just start to blast this rogue. So I do really big damage here. It's getting kind of low. And you can see that I look for a little free sheep here. This is going to be why Shimmer is so good. So you can see here, the healer comes in line to heal the rogue. So the healer is standing right here. I start the sheep cast on him, and then a good healer is always going to line this. So I shimmer over here to get right into the dragon's line to land that sheep. With ice flows, you never would be able to do plays like this. He vanishes. I put a ring around the dragon as a way of like guaranteeing a resheep because my healer can just fear into it. So he fears, and then the evoker trinkets actually. But now he has a ring around him, so he's in the kind of a predicament here because he can't really walk out of this to heal his Boomy. As Evoker, your main heal flies you to the target, so yeah, I put the ring around. I have like a little bit more time left on Surge, so the Boomy's getting kind of low here. I throw my Barrage on him. It doesn't quite kill him. I orb and it's hitting a lot of different targets at once. The Evoker does end up embracing the Boomy, but gets rung. And now since the Boomy has skin, you can see that he has bar skin here. And you can see on big debuffs that he has dilation, time dilate. That's a lot of damage reduction. So you don't want to attack into that. That's going to be like a very important note, is that when you're playing a setup based comp and you're even in shuffle, when you're playing at all and WoW, putting damage into damage reduction is very low value. So I have to swap the rogue here, And the rogue has no cooldowns either because we forced them all earlier. I send in the missiles into an execute barrage. So you'll see here, blast with my 2 precisions. I missiles. This is going to stack my harmony. And then that execute barrage with 4 arcane charges is going to just take him out. And I can finish it off with my clear casting into orb into another barrage if need be. So yeah, very good game there. We can watch another game. All right, yeah, so this is not really sure how this game goes, but we can just watch the start of it. So we found the rogue. I'm just getting my tempo rolling here. I DB him to start our go because remember we're playing a set base comp. With comms here, we're just opting to try to get like a rake, a DB, and a chaststone all at the same time. He does end up getting the nullifying shots, so it's a bit unfortunate. So yeah, you can see the way I'm trying to do damage here. Missiles, palm double blast, because when you missiles, keep in mind guys, you're going to get that nether precision buff. So surge, I have 3 clear castings and some tempo stacks right now. Not the ideal amount of tempo stacks, but enough. 2 is enough for sure. So yeah, this is a very good clean damage rotation. The only thing that could make it better is if I had a ring of fire down. So I get the missiles rolling. That's going to give me precision, which is going to empower your next 2 arcane blast. Palm double arcane blast. And then I throw in my barrage. Now the rogue starts going on to me. I respect his trade instantly by trinket, alter, and walling because I have a lot of damage. I still have surge with 3 different clear castings, so this is kind of an aggressive trinket in my eyes because my healer angel hymns here. Watch. So kidney, I trinket, wall, alter, and my healer angels. So my healer is not going to be hitting, being hit with any CC. So it was kind of not good for me to do this. This is very aggressive. Ideally, you don't want to make these aggressive trinkets too often. It's okay to do them occasionally, especially if it's very clear that you're not the kill target. But it's very clear that I'm the kill target here because of what is going on. Dragon is disintegrating me, the rogue is attacking me, and the boomy is targeting me. And I just got kidney shot. So I definitely should not have aggressively trinketed here. So I alter back, use temp shield now as soon as I alter back. That's a really good way to kind of pair it. And so you can like use your alter first, and then as soon as you go back, you can alter, or sorry, temp shield. So now I'm trying to get all my damage out with the remaining part of my surge here. So you can kind of see the trinket did help us snowball pressure a little bit, because here I get my sheep on the rogue. I blink away and I'm channeling missiles, and I did get a nice orb barrage proc here as well, right here. Or no, that's just a normal orb actually. Sheep the rogue, missiles. I try to ring of fire, barrage. And now I'm just going into peel mode here because that was kind of our go. I barrier, running away. You can see something that I do here is I actually combine my blast wave with my shimmer because rogues have steps. So if you just used one, he would be able to connect. But if you blast wave and shimmer away, he's actually going to be knocked really far and you can get away fully. So you have to just go my feral here who has bark skin. So he should be completely fine. This is an incarn, so it's a bit sketchy maybe, but so the healer's in my face. I just hopped to free CC his ass. This is perfect timing as well because I just got my shifting power off, and the shifting power is going to do a lot. So you can see as soon as I got the rogue far away from me, I'm shifting because I know I'm going to get it fully off. No one's going to interrupt it. Yeah, this is going to reset my damaging cooldowns, all of my defensives that I just wasted. So that's going to be huge because you'll see here, as soon as I get this sheep in a sec on this healer, my magi is up and ready to go. Perfect timing, and my defensives will be up after I send this little wave of momentum. So yeah, I magi the boomy, I cast an arcane blast, and then I palm arcane blast. So the reason why I do this like one little cast here, so you'll notice I throw my barrage first, then I magi. That's going to refresh your tempo stacks. So this is really big because it's going to refresh your tempo. It's like the global that you're sending your damage, so you won't have to refresh it later in the go, if that makes sense. So it's going to be fully refreshed so that this entire magi I can focus purely on just doing the most damage. So then I arcane blast, palm arcane blast, and the reason I do that casted one is because the rogue isn't near me to kick me, and if you palm arcane blast, they're actually reduced by 20%. So you really only want to do the palm ones when you actually can't afford to cast. Yeah, if you didn't know, palm is actually going to reduce the damage of your arcane blast by a little bit. So I DB this rogue off me so that I can fully channel a missiles here. And what that's going to do is it's going to stack my Harmony. So now I have an execute barrage loaded up that I'm ready to send in at any point. Because I thought we were going to kill the Boomy here. But the go seems to be a little bit lost. So I just send in the barrage anyways, just to refresh my tempo. Because you can see it was about to fall. You can see it's about to fall here. So I refresh it. I opt to temp shield first because my healer's in a cheap shot. Maybe should have traded altar. Yeah, so I trade altar and temp. Temp's gonna heal me to full. Altar is looking a little bit useless now. I get kicked here. My Feral's doing a really good job of CCing the healer. Keep in mind what I said earlier. If you're the one being trained and you're playing a setup based comp, then it's on your other DPS to try to get some kind of CC on the healer. So my Feral's doing a really good job. And I'm just trying to connect right here at the end. You'll notice that this guy is very, very low. And I have 4 Arcane Charges, but I only have my 3 stack Harmony. So this could very well kill him, especially if it crits. So I throw it in here. It doesn't crit, it only hits 87k. He gets to 5%, he gets the rescue shield off. So now I'm just trying to kill. I missiles into another one. Another barrage, and that actually is going to proc an orb. So I continue to throw my barrages. The reason why I'm not like missiling in between these, you see when I get these procs, I'm just going to send in another barrage here, because even though I don't have many stacks of Harmony to, you know, guarantee an arcane barrage execute, it's still really, really good damage at 4 charges. So I just send in it again and it hits for 80k. Really what I'm doing here is I'm just fishing for one of these to crit. Unfortunately, I'm not getting any crits here, so he does look like he's going to live. I look to late sheep the healer. You'll see I pair my Shimmer with this. Yeah, didn't get the kill. I try to Shimmer sheep the healer here. Got it. Now we're trying to kill this guy late. You'll see one thing that I did here is I actually tried to sheep his trinket. So I sheeped him, it successfully went off, and then you can see I casted another one. This is because I thought with how much danger that Samayam was in, I thought he was going to just trinket this sheep immediately. So I casted that extra one to try to sheep his trinket. Since he's not going for that, I go for an Arcane Blast. Since I do have 2 stacks of Nether Precision, that's about the most damage I can really put out right now. Because I don't have any clear castings, my Magi is on cooldown, Palm's on cooldown, I don't have any orbs, I can't really afford to barrage here until he's in execute range, because I have no way to farm orbs right now, or I have no way to farm charges. So I'm really just trying to get him in execute range, and then I'll send in my 4 Arcane Charge barrage to try to execute him. The rogue had, I think he was like threatening. I don't really know what I was doing there. I was kind of doing some weird shit, but yeah, basically we don't end up getting the kill here, but we do get communion. And now I opt to just try to sheep the rogue. I get kicked on it. So now we're entering the peel mode. We did our go. Now it's time for the enemy team to do their go. So now we have to try to position in a way that is going to stop them. And I'm going to try to use just all of my defensives like CS and Nova and stuff like that to efficiently stop them from going. So I get Guardianed. So this is another, like, it's kind of unfortunate that in these games I'm using Mass Invis, because you don't really play Mass Invis, but this is like the one comp that I would run Mass Invis into. And the reason why is because they're going to look to chain CC the healer, and your job as the Arcane Mage normally is to use your Mass Barrier to reduce CC. So like, let's take this for example. If we're fighting RMP and he gets like cheap shot right here, or maybe he's fighting a hunter and he gets imtimed, or maybe he's fighting a shadow priest and he gets horrored, you would want to use your Mass Barrier here to reduce the incoming fear from the priest, or the incoming sheep from the mage, or the incoming trap from the hunter. But with a Boomy, the Mass Barrier doesn't actually reduce the clone. So I play Mass Invis into this comp in particular because the Mass Barrier isn't going to reduce any individual CCs from this team except for Sleepwalk. It's only going to reduce magic effects. So this is actually the one comp that I play Mass into. but you can see why this mass is so good. You're gonna basically be doing this in versus all different types of comps, is that you want to mass your healer when they're about to get follow-up CC'd. So what this rogue was thinking here, he was thinking, I'm gonna gouge into kidney on this healer. So he's gouging, he wants to kidney the healer off now, but he's in mass, so he's not able to do it right away. He has to get the healer out of stealth first with like Blade Flurry or something. So he like gets the healer out, and this gives me time to sheep the rogue, and then we get to do a go of our own. So we completely stopped their momentum with shutting down their CC. I kited them to a bad spot, mass invised the re-CC that was being done onto my healer, and then we set up our own go. Like I said, normally this would be with mass barrier, so don't get confused on that. Into literally every other comp, you would barrier the healer there. So this is a really low value global for me, and I want to give you guys a second to spot why. So yeah, so I get the sheep, I get a surge proc, and now look what I do. Do we see what's wrong with this arcane blast? Anyone? It's a 0 charge arcane blast. That's not gonna do anything at all. That does no damage. So I don't know why I did that, especially because I had Magi right after. What I should have done is Magi'd first and then arcane blasted, or tried to get a ring of fire down while I was waiting for my Magi to come back, like right here. Because I didn't have Magi for 1 second, I think what I was thinking in my mind is that I need 1 global to buy time until this Magi is up. So ring of fire would have been a really good global. Instead I do that. He gets really low. I cast my surge late. But one thing here is, remember, I just kind of screwed up their CC chain, so they're looking to still do that immediately after this go. So Trill actually trinkets this sheep here, and he kidneys my healer. So I see him out, I see the kidney, so I know I need to stop clones. So the clone is coming out. I have to cancel my surge cast here to counterspell this clone, because that was going to be on my healer. It was going to be very detrimental for us if he got that off. So it's good I stopped that. I get my surge off here with this precog because the rogue actually tried to kick my surge that I canceled to CS his clone, which is kind of funny. So I get it off here because it's just it. So this is kind of a low value surge. My Magi is over. I don't really have Magi. I could have just waited to do this, but it's honestly really hard to get your surge off into this team. So since I had precog, I opted to do it. I think it's not good though. I should have definitely saved it, because look, I surge and then I spend the next 5 or so globals just sitting here juking kick. And then my tempo falls. It's just not looking good. They're positioned well on the pillar. I can't really hit them. So I just opt to use my clear casting missiles on the rogue. I blink backwards with defensive positioning here because I have to use spell steals on the healer now, and that's going to take a while because the healer's going to have a lot of buffs that I need to spell steal through. So now that we get a clone on the kill target, I'm just going to start spell stealing and nullifying shots. I actually got them all. I think my healer was helping me purge or something. Actually, the fuck? Here's 1 stack. So yeah, I'm trying to purge him now actually. I got 1. I think my healer got 1. And then yeah. So there's 1 more. I need to look to spell steal that pretty soon. I got it there. So now we're pushing on them. I got the full sheep. I get a surge proc here. So these procs are very RNG, but they're very helpful when you get them. So you can see it procs here, and this is perfect timing because full sheep just landed. I have clear castings, so I consume those. I have 4 arcane charges as well. Missiles. And then one thing you want to do is your abilities will actually snapshot with the modifiers that you have when you send them. So because my surge proc is about to end, and I have a really big barrage ready for him, like right here. So I have a 10 stack harmony with a 4 charge arcane blast. So I want to make sure I get that next barrage with surge as well, even though he's not quite in execute range. So I send in this barrage because it'll have the spell damage increase from the arcane surge. Throw that in. Didn't actually do like any damage at all, fortunately. This is kind of scary here. They're pushing on me. The rogue CCs my healer with kidney shot, so I opt to trade my wall. I look to kick the clone because remember, as soon as you see your healer putting it into some kind of CC, I can also see his DRs. So I know every DR is available off of that kidney. Because if you guys ever played a setup comp, you know that you try to chain CC. So you're gonna like start with a kidney, try to get a gouge or a clone off. So I CS that clone. Now I'm just trying to run away, run backwards. My priest actually goes into angel form and presses divine hymn, so I need to make sure I stay in his line here. I'm just trying to stay in his line, just trying to fake the rogue's kick here. It's not working out for me. Ring of Fire, that's going to opt to just cleave them all, and it gets it on cooldown before I shifting power, because I always just try to get value like that, you know. If I can get a Ring of Fire down and then shift it back anyways, I might as well. So I'm just looking for one button to press here before I shift. So I just Ring of Fire, go for the shifting power. Alright, so I drop a ring back there. It's kind of a bad ring actually though, because they have triple no trinkets. You see this? It's like no trinket here. Trinkets coming up for the boomy. No trinket on rogue. So we actually do win next good go. And keep in mind, my team has every single cooldown. So we've been kind of like farming this game. We've been having really good interactions, shutting down their go, getting our go very efficiently. So yeah, we're pretty far ahead here. We win next go. So we're trying to look to do said go. We have Chastise Fear. I've tried to get that Ring of Fire down. So you can see here I'm looking for CC. Trying to get my priest to be able to Chast Fear here. But they actually play very, very well here. So you do actually immune to the Chast. And then blinds my healer. Trill blinds. So my healer is forced to trinket here. Incarn is being popped. So this is a very scary moment. He lands a nice triple fear. It does immediately break to something. But we do get trinket from the boomy here anyways. So what am I doing during this time? Basically, let me back it up for you guys. So I'm trying to look to CC the healer half to get my healer a chance to fear off of it. I have to slow them there with Cone of Cold. Just trying to kill the boomy right now. I get caught into a gouge. What I do is I trinket kick the boomy because this is very aggressive trinket, but since we win here and I still have block, I can kind of afford to use, since we're already so committed, we're already in there, our hands are dirty, we're trying to win the game. I trinket this gouge and I CS the clone because that's going to give us a lot of pressure. And then what I was looking to do with that, since they had no kicks, as I was looking to actually sheep the healer off of it. He does get MC'd, which is unfortunate, but yeah, I'm looking for a sheep on the healer. I get kidneyed, which is a punish for my trinket on the gouge. So I'm forced into my ice block, but I come out early and I look for a sheep because I know we just win the game as soon as I get one. So I get the sheep here. They have no buttons, no skin, no trinkets, nothing. I channel my... So you can see here I don't get greedy. I don't go for an Arcane Surge because the rogue has kick. So you see the rogue has kick. He's walking towards me here. He cheap shots me, so I'm not actually able to get my surge off. So I'm just using my instant cast damage. Boomy's there. Execute Barrage, kills him. So yeah, you guys can see that this is sort of like the main playstyle of an Arcane Mage, is that this is like how you're playing as an Arcane Mage when you're playing for CC. And you're mainly playing for CC whenever you're playing with Shimmer and Master Shepherd talents, which you do quite often. There's like two different playstyles that you can have on an Arcane Mage. The CC playstyle is the one that I prefer and the one that I play always. I always play like that. I think it's good to play like that in almost every single situation. And I think that you guys should try to replicate a playstyle similar to the one that I just showed you. Where you're playing for CC first and then you want to get your damage out, stuff like that. But it is obviously very important to have your preparation globals. Like you want to try to get a Ring of Fire down, you want to get your tempo stacks, you want to spell steal the target a lot, stuff like that. But then you want to push up and try to land CC with your team and get CC on the healer and then try to stun the kill target with something and take him out. I think that's going to be like the most efficient way to play Arcane Mage. However, not always will you be in a coordinated 3v3 setup like this. So now that'll be a nice segue into us watching a shuffle game where it's actually not coordinated at all, and it's just me sort of against the world, as you would say. Yeah, in like a shuffle match where there's no comms and it's just me just in a, you know, in a normal shuffle game like you guys will probably be playing after you watch this. So anyways, let's watch that now. Okay, so for this final part of the video, we're going to be going over the solo shuffle type of gameplay. So first, I just want to reiterate with solo shuffle, you really should try not to think too differently of solo shuffle. In my opinion, a lot of people think that it's a game mode where you should only spam damage and that's it, but I think it's kind of evolved from that. When solo shuffle was first released, I think playing like this is good sometimes. However, I don't think it's always good. So I don't think it's like a pick one or the other situation. I think there are games where you should take a more AFK sort of play style where you want to like sit back and you want to do damage the whole game. But I also think that there is a time and a place for, and what I think this is actually more so the case, but I think there is more scenarios where you still want to try to play to win. Just so you guys have that kind of in your head. In shuffle, you should just play normally, but just know that it's going to be like not so coordinated, but you still want to be going for sheeps, in my opinion. It also just depends on like the enemy healer that you fight. So you'll see in the games against the druid that you'll see like a different pace from me. You'll see some kind of like different play style. Anyways, I have a decent lobby here. This was against like vanguards, big mechs, and then the Aug evoker, and I'm obviously the Arcane Mage, and then we have a disc priest here and a resto druid. So yeah, we'll back it up to the start of the game. So you can say I'm playing with just my normal talents. Keep in mind, if you guys did watch the gameplay before and you saw that I was playing Mass Invis, just know I was only playing that because it was into Rogue Boomy. And that is like one of the only comps you want to run Mass Invis into. This Mass Barrier is actually very, very helpful for this game, because as soon as the hunter, I don't know 100% if I do it in this game, but basically what I want to look out for is I want to look out for reducing CC on my healer with the barrier. You don't just want to press it at the start, the mass barrier. You want to try to time it for when you see an intim on your healer. That's going to be like the best time, or Hodge against hunters and stuff. So yeah, we'll see where you can basically already tell the start of the game is just like any other start of the game. Like I said, in shuffle, you don't want to really approach the game any differently. So I'm just spell sealing, I'm just cleaning him. Now that I have 2 clear castings and tempo, I'll go ahead and try to get my surge off. The hunter kicks me from stealth here, so what I'm going to do is just knock him far away from me, and then you'll see immediately he goes in for the intim. So what do? I press my mass barrier. So now this trap is going to be 4 seconds long instead of 6, which is great. It's also going to reduce this incoming fear as well. But now I have to live for at least that shortened amount of duration, and I have a lot of tools to do so. So ideally, I wouldn't want to trade my wall here. Ideally, I would try to get away with trading altar and then blinking around a corner of some sort, but we'll see what happens. Instead, I go for a sheep, and I opt to do counter pressure, which, you know, we'll see if that pays off. So I didn't get my surge off. He gets imtimmed. I gave him the barrier. I go for a full sheep. Did not expect that sleep from my Aug. And then I just try to get my surge off, which is not good. So yeah, basically just as I called. Hopefully I don't have to trade anything more here. I do get away because I was kicked on Arcane and I couldn't alter back here. I was able to Shadow Meld to get bridge that gap. You can see I casted Surge because the hunter didn't have an interrupt, but the red somehow got over to me in time, kicked me, and then I Meld here and Nova just to be able to get back the full. So I'm not able to get my surge off here, so immediately I just start damaging, and I try to get it off late while I still have 2 clear castings available. So now I have my surge up, and I'm just trying to do as much damage as possible. So we'll see how I'm doing damage here on the surge. So surge into missiles, into palm double arcane blast. So you'll notice that I'm hitting the ret here. For one, the hunter's in a clone. The priest has a roar of sacrifice. And the ret had used sack on a different target as well. So ret's going to be the best target to hit. If you guys don't know how ret sack works, basically when the ret sacks someone, you don't want to attack the target that he sacks normally, because all that damage is going to be redirected to the ret. So you'd rather just put the damage onto the ret itself, so it's not taking a reduced amount. It's spikier damage. The sheep DR is off on priest. I'm looking to get a sheep here. I get the full sheep. I'm kiting away. You can see every time they go in for CC on my healer, I'm either doing one of two things. I'm mass barriering it, or I'm already pre-kiting away. So when you are playing with solo shuffle healers, you got to be a little bit careful. Obviously, this is Foxy, so he's a good healer. But I'm just saying in general, when you're playing with solo shuffle healers, you need to try to really play for yourself in a way. So yeah, here I'm lining. The Hodge comes out, the trap. I'm just behind the pillar. They can't touch me. I'm just zooming away. And this is, keep in mind, I picked a very hard set of games here. So I didn't pick a set of games to commentate where I did well. I picked a set of games that's going to be very difficult. So this is a small map. This is against Ret Hunter. And there's like an AUG in the lobby. So it's already kind of weird. So this is like, I wouldn't call this a good lobby for Arcane Mage at all. So if you guys can learn how to play in a lobby like this, then the rest of them are just going to be very easy. But yeah, basically you can see I'm spell stealing a lot, I'm barraging a lot. I alter because my healer still CC'd. I'm lining purges, I alter back. I try to get some CC here on the healer. Somehow that ring didn't work. I do get the full sheep here eventually though with Shimmer. And I do have my 3 clear castings with Magi available, so hopefully I go into those. And I do temp shield as well because my healer is in a full trap. So I want to be getting pressure out right here while also surviving. So I'm trying to use my pressure here as counter pressure. I have really, really big damage. You can actually see how good damage I have here. I just want to reiterate. So we do get the full sheep right here. I have 3 clear castings, Magi, temp, it gets purge, palm, double arcane boss, and I have a time anomaly proc as well. So with these time anomaly procs, you're actually going to be doing the most damage. And if you wanted to add in some teammate stuff, primarily I'm going to be going over my own globals because in solo shuffle, that's kind of the only thing that you can optimize is your own globals. So, but yeah, I guess I do have Ebb in mind here as well, so good shit by him. And then yeah, I want to make sure I'm spending all these clear castings and then weaving orbs. The best way that you could do damage with this many clear castings and while you have 2 orbs is going to be you want to make sure that you get 10 stacks of harmony. So you would want to consume clear castings here like this. And then you would want to orb to fill your charges. So I have my harmony stacks, some of them. I could have more, but... And then you have charges here as well. And then you want to send in the arcane barrage. And that's going to just optimize your damage a lot. So yeah, I send in the other orb. And then now what I'll do with these clear castings is I'll stack my harmony, ideally. And then I'll have an execute barrage, hopefully. So yeah, basically you're just weaving those. As you can see, I did an okay job. My goals could have been better. I do have a full sheep TR here, so I go for it. So yeah, I mean, you'll see in this shuffle, by no means, even into this hardest comp, I mean, obviously I have a Resto Druid healer who's, you know, keeping me up nice and easily, but yeah, I find that if you just sit back and try to play to damp, you aren't able to do damage like that efficiently enough on Arcane. If you're going to sit back in PvE, you might as well just be the other 2 specs, right? As Arcane, you actually have the ability to win the game through CC, so that's sort of how you need to play it. You can damp as well, but it's just not it's just riskier because you have to rely on your team to actually do the correct things and the right things to be able to live till mana or dampening actually becomes a factor. So ultra time at 100% here, and I'm on the pillar because my healer's in CC. So these guys are really struggling to kill me. Alter back, double DB, get some distance here, and now I'm looking to get the full sheep off. I do get it here. I'm getting a little bit low, so I'm playing it a bit safe. However, whenever I get low in situations like this, before I panic, first I see what I have. So right here, I'm already getting a little scared. I'm like, okay, I have block, I have temp, but it's a little bit late to use temp considering how low I am. But my healer has every single cooldown on the book. He has Overgrowth, NS, Ironbark, Trinket. So if I die, in my eyes, it's not my fault because my healer's now out of CC. He has every cooldown for me. This isn't really a block situation considering like no cooldowns are being popped on me. It's just one hunter doing like a subpar damage rotation, or like a subpar amount of damage right now because he doesn't have any cooldowns up. So yeah, he gets some nice heals on me. I get my surge off here, and then since the hunter just LOSs me, I opt to just hit the red here. I apply Magi to him, apply another Tempest, and then I just go ham. The reason why I do apply another Tempest here, by the way, is because because I have a haste modifier. So if I have haste, like to PI, time warp, or anything like that, then it's always more worth the global because the globals are shorter. So it's kind of worth to put up another Tempest in that situation. And then I just do my palm double Arcane Blast, and he dies without bubbling. That was a good game. So now this is going to be an example of a lot harder game because this is a lot tankier of a comp. It has a hunter on it, and I can't really just free CC a Resto Druid. So our win condition is kind of taken away because I can't really CC the Druid by myself. We probably don't win in the later game because they have an Aug Evoker. So they have a little bit of a better defensive toolkit. So I'm lining right here on all of this. Somehow my barrier actually doesn't reduce this sleep. So we'll see here. Again, we'll notice this trend, right? Look at this. In Tim, what do? I press mass barrier, get the full sheep, right? Or get the stop on that full trap. Yeah, so here, Vanguards actually makes a really good call of trying to actually swap to the Druid, which I agree with a lot, because as his comp, I think we're going to struggle to try to kill in CC chains, so it's actually a great spot by him. So I see it too. The reason why I know that he's going on to him is, well, for one, you can see he's a big Tauren and he's just smacking the Druid. That's the big obvious one, but also the Druid is already low, so yeah. He pops Skin, and he pops Ross, and he Trinket and Overgrowth. So at this point, I'm looking to put the rest of my damage here onto a different target here. I don't want to just keep training the Druid. So I Temp Shield. I actually need to refresh my Twitch because the play button is in the middle. Sometimes it bugs out like that, sorry. So yeah, this goes back to the basic principle. You don't want to put a lot of damage into like Bark Skin or Roar of Sacrifice. I Temp Shield because I'm about to get silenced, so I'm not going to be able to control my character for that a little bit of time. So I wanted to have a shield up for that. I have my Surge up for a little bit longer, so I need to look to get this damage out on a different target. Ideally, I try to go the Hunter, or sorry, the Aug. I don't know what I'm saying. So yeah, I pop my mirror images. I do palm Arcane Blast the Hunter one time, and then I look at the Evoker. I pop an Arcane Barrage onto him. I almost one-shot him. The red is also one-shotting him. Well, it was primarily the red one-shotting him, to be honest. A little bit unlucky that he doesn't go down here, in my eyes. But yeah, we get a lot of cooldowns here, so it's fine. Now this is a really, really good time to shifting power because I just used a lot of defensives. I've used my barrier, I've used Temporal, I've used Alter, some of my mobility as well, and I've used all of my offensive toolkit. So hopefully I should actually barrier first. Good. So good job, Egg. Yeah, barrier first. That should be like every check mark in the book. Like every cooldown is looking off cooldown. So shifting power gives us the maximum value on that spell. And then me and Vanguards at this point both know that our win condition is on the Druid because he has no Barksian and no Trinket. Sorry, I'm trying to get into I don't want to talk about like game theory about like who's the best target. I should definitely just only be talking about my globals because this is Soul Shuffle. But I do recognize that my Ret is going to go this Druid here. So I'm about to go on him as well. So I get my damage ready for him. I don't have a lot of Arcane Charges at the moment. So what I do is I use 2 Arcane Orbs, and that's going to fill up my charges. I had to use 2. And then you can see I don't have a lot of damage, so I have to opt to blast, but I get kicked. So now I'm just trying to like kite back a little bit. You can see I like just tried to DB ring this Hunter, knock him off me now. So he just Fire Breath me, which gives me the kind of the go ahead to press Alter because Fire Breath is what purges your Alter into Evoker. So yeah, I'm just kiting, you can see basically, I mean, guys, it's so obvious. Whenever your healer is in CC, whenever they're trapped like this, I'm already positioned away. It's not like, oh, now they're in a trap. Let me get away. Let me blink to the pillar. I'm already at the pillar when the trap lands. That's something that you guys need to be looking out for. A lot of people complain about hunters, and that's rightfully so. I complain about hunters every day because I get hunters in all of my solo shuffle lobbies. Blizzard, please, if you're listening, I want one solo shuffle lobby where I don't have a hunter. But yeah, this is something that's going to be super important. It's pre-kiting. This is going to increase your survivability rate by 80%. But yeah, you can see now I'm getting some big damage off here, and you can see a lot of the times when you get these orb barrage procs, it can be kind of difficult to know what to do with them. So I Magi, I apply Nether Tempest, I missiles, then I throw in my barrage, and I proc an Arcane Orb on that, but it only gave me 2, so I opt to throw in another one, and then with that I try to get a sheep on the druid with that. Now that I have 4 charges, I gotta be a little bit careful because I did just use my orbs. So you can see I don't have any orbs right now. So if I were to spend this barrage, I really don't have a way to get it back. Now I have another orb, so that's good. I try to get a nice ring of fire. He hodges, he's on the druid, but I can't really get there. So I'm just going the DPS a little bit. My healer's in CC, I'm getting silenced, so I blink to the pillar. Just trying to play a little bit defensive here while I'm waiting for Arcane Surge and Magi to come back up. I'm spam spell stealing. I'm trying to barrage and maintain my 5 stacks. So I mean, this goes back to that notepad that I had at the beginning, guys. Like in your downtime, you can see I'm literally just spell stealing, getting 3 clear castings, and then spending them, and then trying to one shot with the 10 stack Harmony barrages and having 4 Arcane Charges. And then outside of that, you're just spell stealing some more, trying to get more clear castings. You're trying to Arcane Barrage. If there is nothing to spell steal, then you just want to start Arcane Blasting with full charges to fish for clear castings. Sleep Block. So I still do have my counterspell. You can see me not counterspelling the Sleep Block because my healer is already on DR, so there's no point. If it's on me, he just dispels me, so wasn't going to waste my CS on this. Trying to get my surge off here. So there's actually something to be said about getting your surge off later in the game. A lot of people, and this is like maybe niche, but a lot of people kind of complain to me or ask me that because we lose mass invis in the opener, how can I get my surge off? Because I can't get my mass invis off now because I'm not in stealth and I can't cast my surge. First of all, you know, valid, but second of all, you want to think about the target when you're casting surge, like in a late game scenario like this or mid game. You want to be thinking about stuff that they have. So if I want to get this surge off right now, I wouldn't want to cast it on the hunter for a couple of reasons. The hunter has Feign Death is the main reason. So he's gonna be able to like feign, and let's say he had meld too, he could like feign and meld. Against good players, they're gonna do this to just cancel your cast, to waste your time. So I cast it on the evoker, even though maybe I don't want to go on the evoker. I'm not really sure who I'm on, but either way, I'm just casting the surge on the evoker to guarantee I get it off. And look, Big Max is a good player. He even tries to feign it because he maybe thought it was on him or something. So yeah, I would not have gotten the cast off had it been on him. I alter when this hunter connects to me, and I'm just trying to get my damage out now since I got my surge. So we'll talk a little bit about my damage globals here. I don't have the most arcane tempo right now, so a little bit sus by me. Do have my 3 clear castings though. The hunter is looking a little bit better at the moment because he doesn't have life blooms up from the druid. So for the druid, you'll see I'm taking a little bit of a different play style. I'm sort of blinking backwards a lot. I'm not really pushing in to try to CC off of Hodges and whatnot. Although, in my opinion, I should be. Like, if I had this Hodge right here, and I would go back in time, I would try to CC off this. So you want to be always trying to CC. You can't really land. The issue, I think, though, is like when you try to go in for solo CC, you never really want to try to like go in and solo CC by yourself into a Wrestler Druid only. So yeah, I'm trying to get my damage out onto this hunter right here because he doesn't have any life blooms. So I apply my Magi, I apply my Tempest. My missiles. So double missiles is going to ensure that you have that 10 stack Harmony. Now I'm trying to get into his line to throw my barrage. Actually, I did one more missiles since he was only 4% away from execute range. So I tried to get him into execute range and then I throw my barrage, but he has a very nice timed turtle, which is going to deflect it. So unfortunately, didn't end up taking him out there. Almost took him out though with that turtle. I'm going to have to refresh because the bug. Thank you, Twitch. Yeah, we almost take him out there. Ring of Fire. I should have probably buried that. Actually, I think barrier was still on cooldown. I keep backing it up. So yeah, we almost take him out. See, I have my mass barrier in 5 seconds. So I need to look to reduce this next incoming trap. Actually, he just gets full trapped, unfortunately. I'm in dome, so I'm standing in as long as I can. Then I barrier. I actually sneak in a sheep randomly. Let's see how I sneak that in. Yeah, so I just casted a random sheep. It's something you can look for. A lot of druids, especially because I haven't done it one time this entire game, he definitely wasn't expecting it. But yeah, this even further goes to show, because look at that one sheep gets us a lot of cooldowns. We get Ironbark and we get Wall from the Evoker. So yeah, definitely be looking to CC in these shuffles, guys. I'm trying to line right now, trying to range. I blinked through that. If you guys didn't know from the Evokers, this thing where they fly in the air, it's very easy to avoid as Mage, especially when they do it from downtown like this. He tries to line it up. I shimmer out of line of it. You can also just shimmer through it. You don't really have to shimmer out of line. So I am holding onto my CS a bit too long here, unfortunately. Look at this clone that just gets free casted onto my healer. So you're definitely going to be stopping CCs like this as well with your counter spell. I displace back to safety here because I'm about to get silenced. He bubbles. They look like they overlap trinket swap a little bit, but it's fine. I get that full sheep off of nothing, I think. Just free casted it. Yeah, full sheep. Arcane barrages. Another Tempest Magi. Casting a resheep, but I have to juke Evoker, so I can't commit to it. I do end up juking him. Get precog. Palm, double Arcane Blast. I am forced into my Ice Block though. I come out immediately because I want to start to try to kill this guy. So I barrage him, get an orb barrage proc, so I have to send another one. Then I send in an orb. Then I start trying to blast into missiles. I have to kite away right now though because I'm getting a little bit low. Spamming spell steals to try to steal some hots for myself. Alter back. Trying to just live the best I can. Vanguard has a nice bop on to me. I get cloned low. He hodges the healer. Not going to really be able to follow up with that. And we do die. But honestly, this game was kind of close. I think if I would have just kept trying to CC, then we might have won. So let's watch another one. All right. So we're walking in. I've already mass buried the healer. So you can think about it into a comp like this. I don't really need to reduce an individual CC except for maybe Hodge or Sleepwalk. But they don't have a purge on their team. So I'm just going to apply it. Save myself a global for later. Make it easy for myself. I'm casting Barrage. I'm spamming spell steals, trying to clean the hots off of the ret for the go. Alright, he's fully clean. Cast Arcane Surge now. Get a Ring of Fire down. So I always call these like Ring of Fires like preemptive globals. Like you want to try to get as many damage or like dots on the target that you can before you start bursting them. So Ring of Fire is good. I Magi Tempest. And then I start missiling. Keep in mind I'm only really Tempesting here because I have a haste modifier. Then I go into my Palm double Arcane Blast. Yes, the Evoker as well to guarantee the triple cross CC. I get slept. I trinketed because I thought the Evoker was just going to die. So I wanted to throw that Execute Barrage onto him. Yeah, locking Ebonite is really good, by the way. This is a beautiful go. I have a 10 stack Harmony. I throw my Barrage. I trinket to throw another Barrage. Now I'm just arcane blasting the evoker. I almost killed him. So this is something you can do too. It's like when you have a double blast like this. So you can see I have 2 nether precisions. And I have 2 seconds left on my surge. So I send a barrage with this one because it's going to get snapshotted by the arcane surge. So that barrage is going to be affected by it. It almost kills him. I don't know how it didn't kill him. In my eyes, like, he should be dead right there, but our druid is just crazy. So now I'm just kiting right here. I accidentally break that trap. He gets a full sleep on my guy. So I start doing spamming sheeps on the DPS to peel a little bit. Sheeps on DPS you definitely can do. You just got to be a little bit careful and a little bit mindful of what class you're playing with, so that you're not screwing them over too hard. But with the hunter here, I think we are just playing for like a go. We're playing for a trap on the healer, and then we try to kill from there. So I don't really mind sheeping DPS here. Alter time in case they swap me. Now I'm just trying to build up some damage for my next Magi here. So I'm fishing for clear castings, and I'm trying to maintain my tempo. Hopefully I do. Nope, I've tunneled too hard on the clear castings and the purging. See, I'm just spam purging this guy. Okay. I DB sheep the Aug. Halving the healer. Trying to get to the red. He does a good job of pre-kiting this entire go. I send in my damage anyways because you need to kind of keep the tempo of the game up. You can't just lose momentum. You still need to make them heal the whole time. So I'm trying to spell steal. I'll try to point it out when it gets here. So blistering scales is a big buff. It looks like my hunter actually purged it, but yeah, double ring of fire here. They're nice and stacked. Trying to maintain my tempo stacks. I actually do get a surge proc, so I do a little bit of consistent damage with that. As you can see here, ring of fire. I have a surge proc. So I send in my orb, and then I try to just string it into another, or into my surge. So I get my surge off. Iron Bark on the red, so I definitely don't want to just keep attacking into that. Looks like I am though. Well, that was a big mistake. He's like kind of dying through it though. In my opinion, very, very low value surge. I sheep the Aug. The red's pre-kiting again. The red is playing very, very well. I'm in position to get a re-CC, but I do get stunned. He has a bop, so I want to look to spell steal that as soon as I can. I got it. I mass barrier us, standing in dome now, trying to just do consistent damage with orbs and missiles into low arcane barrages for execute. Spam spell stealing now in between the go when I have no damage. I have 3 more clear castings down from spamming spell steals. So I look to sheep the DPS. This is going to give me Master Shepherd for this damage that I do. So I sheep the Aug here. That'll give you a nice 12% damage buff. Sheep. Then I spend all my clear castings. Sheep Aug again. Spending all my clear castings. DB Aug. I'm just trying to peel for my hunter at this point. So you can see I'm just noving this guy, quarter sheeping him, DBing him, ice noving, just everything. Just try to peel. One more ring of fire. Blistering on him. I steal it, so I do get it first try. I'm just back to spell stealing now because I want to make sure I have clear castings for this upcoming Magi Surge go. Looks like I do just kind of throw it in a little bit preemptively. We do get Iron Bark for it, so it's not the biggest deal. Trying to fake kicks, trying to land free sheeps. We are dying, so I'm forced into my ice block. Ooh, accidentally opened that. I'm kicked. I meld while I'm kicked to try to get to my altar, but we're just all dead, fortunately. So we'll do one more round here. One more commentated round. We'll do it with the druid here. So yeah, let's see. So I go into, I'm just starting the game normally. I'm actually doing a very bad job this game of maintaining arcane tempo. And you can see it. I mean, my globals look way worse. My globals look slower, everything. So you need to really try to maintain your arcane tempo. I lock the healer into full sheep. I try to get my surge off, but they have every interrupt in the book. So I try to use my other schools. So I'll use Ring of Frost here. I do get sacked, so I feel immortal when I have this on me. So I'm trying to spam spell steals right now, trying to fish for clear casting. It's getting a little bit unlucky. Get my Arcane Surge off there. I actually did cast it on the Hunter, even though he did have meld. So he feigns right there. I do cast it. He could have melded it. I Magi, and you can see here I'm not actually going to Tempest this one because it has the potential to break CC, and they're all stacked, and I want to try to sheep the healer. So I get a sheep on the healer. If I had a Tempest on this guy, I would have broke, so I'm not pressing it here. I unfortunately do get kicked. I'm looking for a re-CC, not going to be able to get it. So I wall, I temp, and now I'm just looking to get the rest of my damage out with the last second of my Arcane Surge. Blinking away, juking kicks when I notice people are harpooning to me mid-cast. Just waiting out the trap of my Druid. I displace for a little bit of a heal. Try to Nova everything, and I'm just kiting them away. Now I'm back, like trying to kite behind my Druid. This is going to make it to where, it's just going to make it to where you can kite with your healer. If I were to have still been over on this other side over here, he would just have to like pull out more towards the middle. It's not good. So Power Infusion gets popped. I'm hopefully gonna look to spell steal that. Yeah, so I focus spell steal it off the focus target. Shimmer to guarantee the resheep, and then I just opt to swap the Hunter because the Aug Evoker is lining me, and that's who my rat's hitting anyways, so makes sense. Healer gets full trapped. I alter time, just trying to kite it out. I actually cancel this altar because I don't want to go back into the battle. I just want to stay on the pillar while my healer is CC'd. So you can see here, my altar. I'm actually going to cancel that one and then just alter or shifting power. Since this guy kicks me on nature, I can just free cast a sheep on him. Not much he can do. And then I just come back out and get my damage rolling here. With Nether Tempest into Magi, Palm double Arcane Blast. So this is like a desperate damage rotation. I didn't have any tempo, no clear castings. This is just like, I don't have anything. I don't have Surge. I'm just trying to get my damage out immediately. And with, good crits, you can do enough. You can do a little bit of damage. I do about half this guy's HP. And then he is dying with both of me and the red on him. A Ring of Fire a little bit low. Honestly, I kind of wish I would have casted this Ring of Fire when he was a little bit higher HP. Honestly, I'm not playing very good this game. So this is a great example to watch because of how many mistakes I'm making. And you can see portions of the game where it actually doesn't look like we're actually winning. Where it's like it's a lot harder than it needs to be. So you can think about it in terms of your gameplay. If you guys think that like during this lobby, I probably felt like I was playing pretty good, but if you actually go back and watch it, I haven't really set up my damage correctly. I haven't really maintained my tempo correctly. I'm letting casts slip through the cracks and like letting my healers get cloned. I'm not reducing some traps and sleepwalks or hodges with my mass barrier the best way that could be. I'm not pre-applying Ring of Fire before my burst rotation. So if I'm making these mistakes, I guarantee you guys are making these mistakes. So I encourage you guys to even go back and watch your own gameplay to try to figure out when and why certain mistakes keep happening. Yeah, so I displaced back. A little bit unfortunate overlap from me and my Druid here, but I am forced to ice block because of the explosive or the death Trochums on me. So I get stun on a line, death Trochums. I displace back. My Druid gets full slept and explosive shot on me. So immediately to me, this says that I need to ice block, because even if the Druid trinkets for me, he doesn't really have any damage reduction for me. So I'm going to take the full brunt of this damage, and that's just going to kill me. So I need to block. So I block. You can see how slowly the Druid even heals me off that, so I definitely would have died. I do land the full sheep here. Try to get a re-sheep. And then now we're just trying to kill. We get a clone off, trying to get my Arcane Surge. I got kicked. Mass barrier us. Arcane Surge is going off. Try to get a Ring of Fire down. Nice. It looks like I finally am starting to do good stuff. Pop altar. And then I start to try to look to CC the healer, because I think we win if I do land any CC on the healer. Although I see my red is just killing him, so I'm going to try to kill him too. That is definitely something that happens in solo shuffle. Like if it was up to me right there, I would have just sheeped the priest. But since my ret was kind of zugging on him, I had to just try to kill the priest with him. And then it just makes the game a little bit sloppier. This is just things that, it's like the fun of shuffle, I guess, is like you're just gonna have to adapt to these random wacky situations. So now I'm on the hunter, but he gets cloned randomly. So there's another wacky situation. So now I just shifting and I'm gonna try to kill the hunter off of this clone. Try to look for some CC on the healer. I do get it. And then me and the rat come together and we just try to kill. My healer isn't CC right now, so I'm trying to also survive at the same time. Double DB. Just playing on this other side of the tomb while my rat 1v2s. I pop alter time, so now I can try to get some globals off since I'm not as scared. And yeah, we do take him out. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought of this video. I'm not going to go over the rest of the games because I mean, those would be like games with the Aug Evoker and no one really cares about those. But yeah, like I said, let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys enjoyed this entire guide. And if you think, yeah, like I said, if you have any questions, leave them down below. That's all I really have for you guys. So peace out.